Save 10% with code BILL10. That's allfamilypharmacy.com/bill. Code BILL10. That is the Morning O'Reilly Update. For more news and honest analysis, please go to BillO'Reilly.com. No spin, just facts, and always looking out for you.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm meteorologist Chance Koch with your first alert forecast. We're tracking partly cloudy skies, highs towards the lower 40s. Things will look to cool down slightly into New Year's Day on Thursday, a high of 38 degrees, partly cloudy. Conditions remain back towards the lower 40s as we head throughout Friday and this upcoming weekend. Temperatures will look to continue to rise, remaining dry throughout much of next week. Highs back towards the lower 50s and upper 40s. Then Thursday and Friday of next week will welcome chances of showers. From the First Alert 4 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Chance Koch.
Let's get moving, St. Louis. This is Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
Happy New Year to you. Okay, I know that's tomorrow, but let's be honest, we're probably all not going to be here tomorrow. So Happy New Year, one day early here. Appreciate you making News Talk STL part of the day here. Hey, it's Mike. As we are going into the new year, that means a new Missouri legislative session, of course. And as a matter of fact, in just over 1 week, this show, Susie and I are going to be broadcasting from the Missouri Capitol on the opening day of the session. And this could be a very, very impactful one. And this past week, our friend Camelia Peterson was on the program giving us a preview, not just of the session overall, but the big question, can we eliminate the income tax in the state of Missouri, the state income tax at least? And so with her and her team's partnership, we're bringing you these broadcasts from the Capitol next week or just after next week as well. So Camelia gave us kind of that overview on what we can actually, oh boy, knock on wood, be hopeful for in 2026. Here's what she had to say.
A lot of talk about getting rid of the income tax. I want to start there on this, okay? And a lot of people said, okay, there's a plan, the governor's on board, but now the Speaker of the House does an interview in Kansas City, and it sounds like he says, no, this is priority. It's getting fast track. Could we actually see an end to the state income tax in Missouri actually passed, not just talked about on a campaign trail?
Good morning, Mike, and Susie and Jerome. I have been optimistic about few things, such as I am about this one in this next session. So it's really exciting. It's really fun. Everybody seems to, there just seems to be a real cohesiveness among leadership in the legislature and the governor. So, yeah, I think, their job now will be working out all the details that are going to go along with that and, rallying the people of Missouri behind that as well. And I'm going to tell you, I am sitting here, and one of the things that AFP has been doing over the last few months is we have been getting postcards from the grassroots. And basically, a lot of times we give legislators a hard time and tell them when they're doing things wrong, right? But we also think that it's important to give them that positive reinforcement and say thank you as well. So for the last few months, we have had folks that have been writing postcards of encouragement and thank you to Governor Kehoe for his commitment to getting this done. And it's really so neat reading through all of these because you've got, young men that are in college and they're looking forward to, having a family and building a career. And this is something they want for their success. And, just people all across the political spectrum as far as, their income level are writing these notes saying, thank you for doing this. Keep going.
Camelia, there does seem to be a healthy appetite and a sort of refreshing vibe coming off of the legislature and the governor. And so it does seem, like there's reason to be optimistic. Do we have a sense, is this something that they're going to be able to tackle and push through early on in the session? Or is it something where we're going to get in there and it's going to drag on and on and on, and it's going to be May before they actually get it done?
Sure. Well, and I think that's probably the big question because we all know it's been kind of a rocky year in the legislature, in terms of calling the previous question in the Senate, which, made a lot of people upset. And so along with the redistricting and all that other stuff, There's, I think, some uncertainty with how things are going to go across the aisle come time. But from everything that I have seen, I would say they are going to drop this on the day of the State address, and they are going to run with it and go hard. And then I guess we'll see where we go on this. This would be a really great thing for Democrats to push to be honest, because affordability and people being able to afford housing and all those other kind of things are big deals for their constituents too.
Camelia, there's not any one way to do this right when it comes to getting rid of the income tax. There's probably not just one way to do it wrong. Right. Whatever the right way ends up being, what should that include? I mean, what's the right approach to do it, regardless of what the final details are? What are some basic concepts and principles that really need to be applied on this?
Sure. I mean, I do think that to get this done and to make a change this big is going to be a multi-pronged approach, right? But it's going to require a few different things. It's going to require us to re-examine the way we do taxes in the state, and we need to make sure that load is distributed evenly among the people who are in the state, so that certain groups don't have carve-outs where other people are having to pay. And we also have to cut spending. I mean, there's no doubt about that. I mean, I was just reading one of these postcards that says they want to cut the income tax, but the people recognize that we have to cut spending too.
Camelia, I mean, obviously this is going to be sucking up a lot of the oxygen, particularly early on, a lot of discussion about it, a lot of energy around it. Mm-hmm. That's a good thing. What are the other key priorities you think that you're optimistic the legislature is going to be able to get to this session?
Sure. I think we will see some changes in terms of other taxes too, as far as like real property and personal property taxes. I don't know exactly what it will look like yet, but I think there is a sense that maybe the income tax legislation will include a way to start reducing some of that property tax as well. But there will definitely be a lot of legislation addressing some of the root problems with those issues that we've seen across the state. And then there are actually a lot of exciting things coming through the legislature, I think, in the next year. We'll see a lot of things having to do with energy and trying to open up more ways to make energy cheaper, and also more options for energy in Missouri, like nuclear. Nuclear is something a lot of people are talking about right now. And just a lot of deregulatory types of things. We will once again, be pushing the REINS Act to kind of rein in the administrative state and the rules that agencies make. And there is a checks and balances that needs to be in place with that from both the legislature and the governor.
We're visiting with Camelia Peterson from our friends at Americans for Prosperity, the Missouri chapter, obviously. And so, Camelia, one thing you brought up that I think cannot be emphasized enough is that while a lot of people talk about cutting or eliminating a tax, which means the government doesn't take as much of my money, yes, that's important, but that's also by default a restraint on government. And that is crucial as well, because then you talked about the regulatory stuff, on businesses. That also is related to restraint on government, because at its core, leaders in the state say we've got to compete with all of these other states. Illinois is basically begging businesses to leave. We're competing with Tennessee that's doing a lot of things right. Kansas is using a lot of corporate welfare. Update on that here in about 10 minutes. But also it's a matter of trying to grow opportunity in the state. And I think there are enough people in the majority party that say, government isn't going to provide that opportunity. We've got to get government out of the way. And you only do that when you restrain government.
That's right. 100%. I mean, we have heard so much in the last few months about all of the fraud that they've been finding in Obamacare and all of these government programs. And it just makes you think, it doesn't matter which party is in charge. Government never does anything well or efficiently. And so I will tell you, we have some good people serving in the Missouri legislature who are very cognizant of that issue. And so there are bills that have been filed just in terms of government efficiency to try to clean up that inefficiency and that waste that just goes on that is inherent in the system. And we have to be constantly vigilant about that. And so there are opportunities for us to do that and to let private businesses do things better than the government ever can.
Camelia, I know obviously the legislature, or the GOP and the legislature, is on board. The governor's on board. AFP's on board. Many Missouri voters are on board. Where do we anticipate the biggest pushback coming from in relation to doing away with the income tax?
I think that we've already seen some pushback coming out, even in the article that Mike mentioned from Speaker Patterson. Pushback from the Democrats that, they're saying, well, we're going to bankrupt the state, we're going to cut essential services. And those things are not accurate, because I think that, the governor and his team and the legislators have been, very cognizant of mistakes that have been made by other states. And they've been very careful to create this plan and craft it in a way that makes sense for Missouri and is responsible. And so I have a lot of confidence in that, but I think, you'll get, obviously pushback there. I think that there will probably be pushback from certain groups that maybe have gotten carve-outs in other taxes for themselves. It's hard to say, though. One thing that I will say for sure here is that Governor Kehoe is really great at working with people and kind of bringing them along on things and finding that way to deal with them. And so I have a lot of confidence in his ability to bring those folks along too.
We're visiting with Camellia Peterson, Americans for Prosperity. Okay, last minute or so here. Camellia, we're going to be hanging out at the Capitol here in just a few weeks because you all and NewsTalkSTL are partnering to bring a couple of our shows, including this one, directly from the Capitol on the first day of this legislative session. And I'm really excited we're going to be doing this.
Yeah, me too. And I will say, I was talking with Chris Arch the other day, and one of the things I mentioned to him is that we have worked with you guys on so many things over the last couple of years. And one of the biggest things in this last year was that event we did with Glenn Jacobs, Kane. And it was so exciting. And of course, that event was about eliminating the income tax. And so I'm excited to do opening day with you guys. And I just saw Mr. Jacobs on Twitter the other day, and he was giving us props for the Missouri GOP supporting the governor's plan to eliminate the income tax. And I was like, you have to come celebrate with us when we get it passed, and he's going to do it.
Yeah, because he actually made the rounds at the Capitol the day after our event, and lawmakers were asking, okay, so what are the problems you're dealing with? What's the right, so he was given some insight into that. But Americans for Prosperity, Missouri, sponsoring not just the morning show here, but the Tim Jones and Chris Arp show, both on the opening day of the legislative session on January 7th. We are going to be broadcasting from the Capitol. And if I ask real nice, I think Camellia might be talked into stopping by for at least a segment on the show.
Maybe.
Oh, I'm sure. Maybe.
Yeah, we're actually going to have, we're actually loading up and booking that show. And let's just say the top names and the most influential people in the state are going to be on the program with us that day. So I really appreciate AFP Missouri and Camellia and you all for making this happen. I think it's really going to be almost a crossroads legislative session. We've gone into legislative sessions in the last few years going, yeah, we're not expecting much. I'm expecting a lot this time.
I am too. And hey, I have a quick Christmas question for you. So it's a Christmas question because somebody gave me this mug for Christmas, and it's the 5 words and phrases everyone mispronounces. And I won't go through all the others, but I will ask you, how do you think most people mispronounce taxation?
I think I know the answer to this.
Theft?
All right, 314-912-1019. As always, that's how to be involved in the discussion on this New Year's Eve right here on 1019 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Free speech is alive and well in America right here.
It's about time somebody stood up for true American values.
What this country needs is some backbone.
Finally, a president who wants to make real change.
1019 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Columbo here for my friends at Bluff City Outdoors in Alton. The knowledgeable staff at Bluff City has served the St. Louis outdoor community for decades, and they can take care of all your bow hunting needs, all your trapping needs, all your fishing needs, and more. Plus, while you're there, you can schedule a trip with a local fishing guide and shoot in their archery range. Bluff City Outdoors is open 7 days a week, 1 mile east of Fast Eddie's at 2813 East Broadway in Alton. Follow them on Facebook and at BluffCityOutdoors.com.
Jamie Allman here, tossing and turning over retirement worries. You're not alone. 3 out of 4 Americans share your concern about having enough saved. But here's the thing. A comfortable retirement isn't out of reach, even if you're planning for 30 or 40 years ahead. Every day, Jeff Portman from the Gemini Wealth Group helps people avoid the critical mistakes that can derail their retirement. Build your path to financial confidence. Visit GeminiWealthGroup.com or call Jeff directly at 314-888-0123.
Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA SIPC. Why leave your company's story to chance? In today's digital world, video content isn't just an option. It's essential for your success. At Blue Ocean Media Group, we've spent decades crafting compelling visual stories for businesses just like yours. From concept to completion, our award-winning team transforms your vision into powerful video content that connects with your audience and drives results. Don't trust your brand to amateurs. Partner with Blue Ocean Media Group. Visit blueoceanmediagroup.com today, and let's bring your story to life.
Do you owe the IRS $10,000 or more in back taxes? Are you being audited or investigated? Has the IRS sent you a letter demanding payment? You may not owe what they claim. Make this free call to the tax doctor now. Let them negotiate with the IRS on your behalf.
800-240-4586. 800-240-4586. That's 800-240-4586.
Everyone loves a champion, someone whose performance puts them head and shoulders above the rest. But not all champions wear a medal or hoist a trophy. At the U.S. Center for Safe Sport, we see champions everywhere we look. In every sport, on every court, we're building a foundation to ensure all athletes are safe, supported, and strengthened. We believe abuse can be prevented by taking a hard look at how we coach, how we train, and how we interact after the last whistle. We have provided over 2 million safe sport trainings. At the U.S. Center for Safe Sport, ending abuse is not just our job. It's our promise.
All right, let me be among the first to wish everybody a happy new year. Here we are, 31st.
We made it.
Oh, man. You look back. How do you assess your year?
That is a very good question.
Yeah, it's a big question.
I think that I've probably done better this year in regards to many of my milestone adulthood achievements than I have in previous years. But I can also recognize I really probably didn't maybe follow through as hard as I should have on some things. What about you?
On the personal side, there's been some difficulties on the year. So hopefully 2026 is better on that. On the professional side, no complaints. The audience, you all have been just wonderful to me. And we've, at NewsTalkSTL, we have just proven that there is a need for what we do here. Local, divergent opinions on the right throughout the station, throughout the day. No corporate controlled stuff. And so, when we first started this radio station, man, nobody thought we would make it. They're like, what are you doing? Terrestrial radio. And we are going to have our 5 years on the air celebration this year.
That's incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm really, really excited about that. So, and this is the time, a lot of people like to reflect. I mean, I honestly don't do that as much anymore because I try to think in terms of just, building things into lifestyle, whether it's health or habits or hobbies. I am excited, like, for instance, with my hobby, everybody knows baseball and stuff. Actually, in a few weeks, I'm actually going to be heading to the Caribbean for a tournament.
Oh, wow.
Which is going to be exciting. And I'll talk more about that when we get closer to it. But that's going to be Exciting to start my baseball play a little bit earlier this year than I normally do.
Moving on up to the big leagues, huh?
Well, I don't know about the big leagues. It's still old man baseball, but it's going to be a lot of fun. But yeah, I think, we're really hoping for a lot of big things in 2026 here, not just because it's a big political year, but because more so than ever, the conversations that we're facilitating here, they're just needed more than ever. I mean, we saw that in 2025. We saw that this past year that's ending literally today, is that fights between right and left, which is always going to happen, fights within the right.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people saying, you don't have a right to think like that. Well, that's different than saying, I disagree and I think you're wrong.
Yes.
I mean, but you look at like our station here, and I'll just be really, really candid. You go from my show to the show after me, and then you got Jamie and Tony and Chris and Tim and Larry. We've all got different perspectives. Some of us disagree on a lot of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And our boss says good. And when we created News Talk STL, because I was one of the OGs that launched it, I was there in the planning and the meeting long before we ever came on the air. That was part of the idea, not talking points. Here's the memes. Take this from any political party or any politician or any, God forbid, corporate sort of thing. And so this, I think, is what's been really successful for us in 2025, because we just try to be real,
And I think the market is rewarding that. Anybody can go and watch any talking head that reads from a script all day, but that's one of the things that I really honestly appreciate about it here as well, is that, there are going to be times where, because of different people's expertises and because of the experiences they have and the guests they talk to,
passions,
there's going to be something different that each person can talk about with an event, and it's authentic.
Yeah.
And that's something I really appreciate. Now, I know you said you don't like to reflect too much, but we've had so much go on in the news cycle, and we've both been to different events. We went to the Torch of the Tax events. You were part of the Reach Reproductive group, health event. So is there something that you've observed that we all collectively might benefit from reflecting more on?
I think instead of worrying about stopping other people from thinking or saying something we don't like, focusing on what we know, why we believe what we believe, focusing more on us and ourselves to say, here's what I believe, here's why. Because there's a lot of people that will shoot off a meme or a talking point or a bullet point, and then you say, okay, tell me more about that. Well, I don't know. I would say do a deeper dive. And then I mentioned this yesterday too, local. Local. We were just a few months away from those city hall and school board races. Crucial. On the Illinois side, the primaries are in March for governor. And so that's a different calendar. But I would say I don't even worry about what other people say. I'm ready to debate and engage it, which is what we do here.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say in 2026, what I would encourage everybody on the right to do is do a deeper dive. Know why you believe what you believe. And what's the worst that's going to happen? You get challenged and have to rethink something. Is that the worst that's going to happen? So that's why you look at resources like, the Kirk Center for, that looks at the heritage of conservatism. You're seeing a lot of that right now with the Heritage Foundation completely imploding. And so a lot of them are going to advancing American freedom. And that's what happens with the Heritage Foundation, frankly, when you sell out your principles to a politician. That's what happens. So I would look at that and be understand why you believe what you believe and the principles behind it. Then we can engage on any issue or personality that you want.
I would like to add on to that as well. I've been trying to actually do more to understand people that disagree with me better, because if you can understand why they might be believing what they believe, then that gives you more of a reason to actually communicate and not just shake your fist and growl at each other.
Right. Because nothing changes. And eventually, if you know what you believe and why, and you can articulate it, there will be somebody out there who goes, oh, I never thought of that. Really? I better look into that. Send me a link. Because so that's I had a friend. He was his name was Michael Badnarik. He died years ago. His catchphrase was lighting the fires of liberty one heart at a time. And I think there was a lot of wisdom in what Michael did. Yeah. All right. 314-912-1019. We've got the one and only Tim Jones. Going to be in with Susie here just after 6 o'clock on 1019 94.1 News Talk STL. Happy New Year, everybody.
Hanson's Tree Service at hansonstree.com is your one-stop shop for expert insured tree care and more in the greater St. Louis region and at the Lake of the Ozarks. Visit hansonstree.com for 24/7 emergency tree care, grinding and land clearing, awesome organic mulch, green resource recycling, and more. Tim Jones here to tell you that whether you're dealing with old man winter at your home or business in the St. Louis region or preparing your lake home for spring, call Hanson's to help you out. No job too big or too small. Mention News Talk STL. Receive 10% off all tree care services. hansonstree.com, hansonstree.com.
Jeffco Patriot Radio.
Hey guys, Jefferson County Councilman Billy Crow here from Jeffco Patriot Radio. On behalf of Tim Jones and I just want to thank you for making Jeffco Patriot Radio the #1 listened to show on Sundays here on News Talk STL, where we dive into all the things happening in and around Jefferson County. Check Tim Jones and I out on Jeffco Patriot Radio this and every Sunday at high noon here on 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL.
Jeffco Patriot Radio.
Do you own a timeshare? Well, face the facts. You made a mistake. You made a bad purchase. A timeshare is not an investment. It's a money pit that continues forever. If you use your timeshare, that's great. But if you don't and you want to legally get out of your contract, call my friends right now at the Timeshare Exit Hotline. They're an experienced team of lawyers who help good people like you get out of a timeshare contract that they just don't want. Don't throw away your money on maintenance fees. Use it for things you really want. We can help you end your timeshare contract and stop the money drain immediately. If you are ready to move on with your timeshare, call our team right now.
Cancel your timeshare now with this free call. 800-524-1641. 800-524-1641. 800-524-1641. That's 800-524-1641.
Where do my friends and other students find their voice? We find our voice through the performing arts, along with millions of other high school students. By expressing yourself in a role on stage, through an instrument, or at the debate podium, the performing arts give us freedom to find ourselves, to find our place. The stage is where I can play, perform, and compete with my friends.
Performing arts at your school is where creativity meets courage. Encourage the students in your life to find their voice through the performing arts. This message presented by the NFHS, where we encourage all students to play, perform, and compete together.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 101.9, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
News this hour from Town Hall. Amit Thomason. Amid allegations of fraud on a grand scale, the Trump administration has suspended all child care payments to Minnesota.
I spoke directly with the director of the Minnesota Child Care Services Office. She could not tell me with confidence whether those allegations of fraud are isolated or whether there's fraud stretching statewide.
Assistant Health and Human Services Secretary Alex Adams says Minnesota gets about $185 million in federal child care funds each year. HHS is demanding Minnesota Governor Tim Walz provide detailed information about federally funded child care centers in the state. Meanwhile, Minnesota Republicans are clamoring for Walz to step down. The snuffling and sniffling, the aches and pains, and what to do to bring down that fever. It's that time of the year, and this year, correspondent Bill Alexander says the flu is coming on strong.
According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, there have been at least 7.5 million flu cases this season, as well as at least 81,000 hospitalizations and 3,100 deaths. The CDC says 32 jurisdictions are showing high or very high levels of the flu. Jurisdictions include all 50 states and some territories, as well as the District of Columbia and New York City.
Where tonight it's the traditional Times Square ball drop to ring in 2026. More than 1 million people are expected to turn out. New York Mayor Eric Adams says, we're ready.
We will have plainclothes K-9 teams, officers on horsebacks, on our trains, subway stations, and in helicopters and on boats. Pedestrians and vehicle closures will be in effect leading up to and during the event. Security's is everyone's responsibility. Again, see something, say something, do something.
Dow futures down 71 points. NASDAQ futures off 68. More on these stories at townhall.com.
So Pure Talk just had their best year ever and asked me if I'd like to thank their customers on their behalf for being so awesome. I said, sure. It's important to say thanks, especially this time of year, which is why, as one of their many satisfied customers, I should probably thank Pure Talk first for keeping their customer service in this country and for providing hundreds of American jobs. I appreciate that. I also appreciate their Roundup program, which makes it easy to support America's Warrior Partnership and join the fight against veteran suicide. And I love that Pure Talk donated 1,000 hand-sewn Made in America flags to veterans around Independence Day. And of course, I really appreciate their generous support of my own foundation, MicroWorks, and their commitment to help us train the next generation of skilled workers. Having said all that, it's now my pleasure, on behalf of everyone at Pure Talk, to thank you sincerely for choosing to do business with an American wireless company that actually stands for something. And one more thing. Happy New Year.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm meteorologist Chance Koch with your first alert forecast. We're tracking partly cloudy skies, highs towards the lower 40s. Things will look to cool down slightly into New Year's Day on Thursday, a high of 38 degrees, partly cloudy. Conditions remain back towards the lower 40s as we head throughout Friday and this upcoming weekend. Temperatures will look to continue to rise, remaining dry throughout much of next week. Highs back towards the lower 50s and upper 40s. Then Thursday and Friday of next week will welcome chances of showers. From the First Alert 4 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Chance Koch.
This hour of News Talk STL brought to you by Chris Cooper and Serenity Wealth Management. Discover little-known strategies that could be the difference between choosing the care you deserve or having someone else decide it for you. Get a free copy of Chris's book at serenityltc.com.
Kathy Connor from Connor Roofing is here. Kathy, how you doing?
Good. Hi, Vic.
You know, when you need a roof, I don't want to call a stranger. I want to call you.
Yeah, thanks. At Connor Roofing, we're more than just a roofing company.
How long have you been doing it?
Since 1993.
And year after year, storm after storm, you guys are always there.
Because this is our home too, Vic. Our kids go to school with your kids. We cheer for the same teams. Go Blues!
So support your neighbors. Call Connor Roofing at 314-375-7475 or CONNER roofing.com.
Thanks, Vic.
Now you can fly anywhere in the world and pay discount prices on your airline tickets. Book a flight today to London, Paris, Madrid, or anywhere else you want to go and pay a lot less guaranteed. Call the International Travel Department right now at Low Cost Airlines.
800-515-2397. 800-515-2397. That's 800-515-2397.
Colombo and Company.
Join us every day for conversations with a wide variety of guests as we keep you informed and up to speed on all the important news and headlines you need to know.
Live and local weekdays at 2 on News Talk STL. Mike Ferguson.
I'm sick and tired of smart guys.
Susie Moore.
Get out of here and stop playing victim.
Get up, can't you hear the alarm? Get up, St. Louis.
We have federal regulations that prohibit hunting ducks, and yet it's legal to hunt humans.
Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
Get up, this is your cousin.
Get up, get up. It's the Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show. It is the very last Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show of 2025. And I'm Susie Moore filling in for Mike once more, along with Tim Jones.
Good morning, morning people.
Good morning. I'm not a morning person this morning.
As I always say, you people are crazy.
Yes.
So,
and producer Jerome's going to keep us upright, we hope, for the rest of the show. Wow. It is the last day of 2025.
Can you believe we made another trip around the sun?
No.
It happened so fast.
It happened really, really fast. Doesn't it just seem like a couple weeks ago that we were here doing like the holiday shows last year?
Yeah, I was going to say this entire year flew by. Felt like it flew by a lot quicker than the last month of the Biden administration. We were waiting for him to finally vacate the
dragged
White House.
forever.
Yes. So it's not just me.
No, it isn't just you. And I'm gonna kind of, you're younger a little bit than me, Jerome, but I am going to tell you, let you know a little secret. The older you get, the faster it goes. It actually is true. Your perspective changes.
Is it because we're busier, Susie, or do we have dementia?
Yes. Why not embrace the power band? No, I think what it is when you think about it, relative to your whole life, a year when you're 4 years old is a huge chunk of your life. A year when you're 50 years old is only one small sliver of it.
That's a good way to
So
put it.
your
Yeah.
perspective changes. But my
Yeah.
daughter, who's 23, so she's still quite young, like a year ago, she's like, gosh, I just feel like every year things it just goes by faster and faster. I was like, oh, you ain't seen nothing yet, buddy, baby.
No kidding.
It's gonna get faster and faster. But I do think 2025 really was a blur, and we are certainly going to be talking about that, kind of some retrospective stuff here on the show today. We also have some great guests coming up. We're going to be joined by our Alaska man, Ward Clark, who's getting up not at the crack of dawn. He's getting up at the way, way, way before dawn for him.
Middle of the night.
Middle of the night for him to talk with us. We're going to talk about some of the different fraud things going on. It isn't just Minnesota. There's lots of different crazy stuff going on. And we'll get his perspective on that. And then later in the show, we're going to be joined by Becky Noble, our fellow St. Louisan. She's got an interesting article up about one of the big concerns the New York Times has over the crackdown on immigration. And you're maybe you aren't going to be surprised by it, but it's a little bit roll your eyes kind of thing.
I found a RedState article that I like to talk about at some point in the show, written by your colleague Adam Turner.
Yeah.
Headline caught my attention. I need to look at more of the details. Has the GOP turned the corner in the battle for the House? Did you review that one, edit that one, help write that one?
I did not. I do regularly edit Adam. Adam is one of our regular columnists. He has spent a fair amount of time in and around Capitol Hill. He kind of knows a lot of the players, and he's a political wonk. And so he does these great columns where he does sort of a, wonky analytical breakdown of.
So I'll bet you
races.
can guess. I bet you can guess the reason why he thinks it's possible the GOP may have turned the corner in their quest to retain the House.
No.
What is it that people typically vote on? All the stuff that we discussed out there. All the distractions, all the kerfluffles, as Governor Jay Nixon used to say. That was a famous phrase from Governor Jay Nixon, kerfluffle. All the drama, things like, look, not to diminish them, but things like Epstein files and even foreign wars, which are very important to pay attention to, but don't necessarily affect what people think in their heads when they walk into the ballot box. Susie, I've probably given you enough clues now, haven't I?
Yeah. It's the economy, stupid.
You got it. Yes. And his argument, essentially, Susie, is having just experienced the latest jobs numbers, GDP reports, inflationary numbers, wage growth numbers, that if the economy is fully in the sails, if the wind of the economy, if the economic winds are fully in the sails of the GOP, then they do stand a heck of a chance to once again defy history, as Trump has done year in and year out, and break that trend of always having to lose a massive amount of House seats in the off-year midterm.
As my grandmother used to say, God willing and the creek don't rise.
Truly indeed.
Yeah, I agree that there's that possibility. I think that's an important if. And the reason I say that is because there's a few hurdles that they have to get through. Now, the numbers are good, I agree. But when you're talking to people, on the street and asking them, I don't mean people living on the street. I mean, just, Joe walking down the street.
Not actual hobos.
That's a whole different demographic. And I don't know how much they vote, but, well, people probably vote in their names. But the average person isn't, you say, oh, the GDP is, 4%. They grew 4% in the fourth quarter. And they're like, giggity. That doesn't fill my gas tank. That doesn't buy my groceries. That doesn't, pick up the hamburger that I need to pick up. That's really expensive right now, that sort of thing. So there have to be ways to translate that into real economic terms on the micro level so that people actually are feeling it in their wallets. I think we are going to see that. I think we're going to see the tax relief that was basically kept in place via the tax cut extension.
One big beautiful
bill.
The OB3.
They're calling it something else now, though. It's the
really?
Working Families
Jobs
Something
Act?
Working Families Something Act.
Okay.
In any event, that's going to be the no tax on tips, that sort of thing. We are going to see those concrete benefits.
Because most of those elements of that bill have not kicked in.
They haven't kicked in
So we
yet.
haven't seen and that's why Democrats fought so hard against the One Big Beautiful Bill.
Yes.
Yes, they claimed it was because Trump and Orange Man bad and all that stuff. But what they're really afraid of, Susie, is that the full power of the free market and American ingenuity and capitalism will be unleashed once again across the land because they hate America and they want us to become a socialist country. I'm sorry to say it. It's hard for it hurts me to say this about the once mighty Democratic Party because, they used to be a much more sane group of people that
Back when I belonged to it.
Right. That you could quibble around the edges on whether or not government should do this, that, or the other thing, and how big or how small government should be and how many different programs it should or should not create. Now it's a case of whether or not we're going to destroy communities, let lawlessness run rampant, throw open our borders, and bankrupt the Treasury. I mean, that's kind of where they've gone.
There's this phrase called cutting off your nose to spite your face. And I feel like that sums up what we're seeing from at least the professional left and professional Democrats as far as the policies they're pursuing, because they aren't policies that are designed for growth. They're designed for, people being beholden to the government and enshrining their power, but not actually helping helping the country benefit from an economic standpoint. And I do think that was one of the driving forces behind the shutdown. That kind of helped, rein things in a little bit from an economic growth perspective.
Andy yell and scream about healthcare.
Absolutely.
And how much more the government should ruin it.
I think that in the quest to pass the rest of the appropriations bills, we're going to see a lot of effort from the Democrats in Congress to gum up the works and slow that down, because that's going to end up being painted as the Republicans' fault, of course, since they're the ones in charge. So I think there's a couple of things that a couple of hurdles we have to overcome in order for the economy to fully take off the way it's been primed to. That's what this administration is trying to set up and set in motion, because Donald Trump knows if the economy is sailing along,
there's less things to complain about.
Right.
And I'm not Pollyannish about this at all, because you're right. In a final, this is the second and final presidential term of Donald J. Trump, despite the fact that the liberals think he's never going to leave the White House, which I'm all for Trump 2028. I'm all in on that. But because it makes them absolutely insane when you say and suggest things like that. But in reality, yes, this is the last midterm of a second term president, which history would tell you is bad for the incumbent party. So it is more likely, and it pains me to say this, but it is more likely than not that we would see a Hakeem Jeffries ascend the speaker's dais versus a Mike Johnson continue in that role. But it's not impossible, right, Susie?
No,
so
it's not.
The probability would be that it would be Jeffries. But if you look at the reign of Trump, and let's call it that because that's what the left calls it, because he's a regime and a king and all that.
Kings.
Yeah, if you look at the mighty reign of Trump, he has defied the odds, broken the norms, and bucked the historical trends year in, year out, term in, term out. So it is also, as much as it's probable that the Republicans should lose seats and Hakeem Jeffries will become speaker, it's equally possible that none of those things will happen.
Yeah. No,
especially as we watch what I believe will be the failed social experiment of an avowed communist running the once mighty financial capital of the world, New York City.
That's going to be interesting to watch. Yeah, when you think about it, Zoran, he takes office tomorrow, right?
He takes office tonight. Yeah, at stroke of midnight.
Stroke of midnight. Yeah,
tomorrow, next year.
January. I know.
I wish it was like way in next year, but next year is now here.
Where's that DeLorean when you need it? Yeah. So I mean, as of tomorrow, he will be the mayor of New York City. So he will start, implementing his policies, and we'll see how those work out for the Big Apple.
Or don't. And we'll also see, Susie, what will actually happen and what he's actually able to do versus all the crap and the baloney that he's promised.
Yeah.
He's promised a lot, but putting him aside, there's only so much that an actual mayor of New York City can do without the blessing of Albany and the governor of the Empire State. And Hochul,
they work that well together.
And Hochul doesn't seem all in as much as a leftist liberal progressive she is. She doesn't seem all in yet on the socialist agenda of Zoran Mandani.
Well, I think she's just a political creature. So she's not convinced that his way is going to be the winning way for her. So she's trying not to tie herself to him and, limit her political possibilities.
Because if they actually convince all the millionaires and billionaires to leave New York City and New York State, then they're all going to be equally screwed.
It's true. It's true. You know how you're not screwed? Because if you've got a phone, you've got a radio. That means anytime you want to listen to News Talk STL, you can just pull up the News Talk STL app. If you don't have it, download it. So you can just pull it up and listen to us. You can listen to us wherever you are, whenever you want. It's the best way to do it if you can't just be listening on the radio or streaming us online. NewsTalkSTL app. Check it out.
I think you all know that I've always felt the 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
When water troubles strike, call the family you can trust. Tim Jones here for Ambassador Plumbing, serving our community since 2018 with 25 years of master plumbing expertise from Tim Morris and his handpicked team. Whether it's a simple faucet repair or a complete bathroom remodel, if water runs to it or through it, they do it. From residential service calls to commercial to new construction, the folks at Ambassador are your neighbors treating you like family. Ambassador Plumbing, where faith meets craftsmanship. 636-383-6932 or ambassadorplumbing.com. That's ambassadorplumbing.com.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
Speaking to David Stokes, Director of Municipal Policy at the Show Me Institute, tell Chris and I about Waymo, these robo-taxis.
That is pretty obvious that these cars are much safer than human-driven cars. And much like I like horses, I like humans.
Dave, my God, man, they're killing cats.
I'm not an expert, but I do believe in the history of America that probably some human driving cars also run over a cat.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps. Weekdays at 4 on News Talk STL.
If you turned 65 recently like me, it's important you find a Medicare Advantage plan that gives you the coverage you're looking for. But finding one can be difficult. The best thing I did, and I suggest you do the same, is call a licensed insurance agent and let them walk you through your Medicare Advantage plan options. There are so many benefits you have access to. So make the call now and let the representatives explain everything to you. Our licensed insurance agents can offer you a variety of Medicare Advantage plans. Plus, the call is free, the information is free, and there's no obligation to enroll. We're here to make it easy for you to select a Medicare Advantage plan that may work for your needs. Finding a Medicare Advantage plan can be easy if you do what I did. Make a quick call right now to learn more. Thank you.
800-439-7851. 800-439-7851. 800-439-7851. That's 800-439-7851.
This hour of Mike Ferguson in the Morning is brought to you by Stifel. Request a portfolio review from your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
We're through being cool. We're through being cool. Eliminate the minis and the twits. Going to bang some heads. Going to beat some butts.
Let's get back to all this madcap mayhem with Mike Ferguson in the morning. But don't forget, stick around for Jones and Arps every Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m.
That was like magic. Like Tim was talking and his lips weren't moving.
And here I am.
It's like amazing.
It's like I have a puppet of myself.
The wonders of modern technology.
Very good ventriloquist.
Yeah, he's
indeed,
great at that.
indeed.
Hey, welcome back to the Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show. It's Susie Moore filling in for Mike, and Tim Jones, of course, is here with me. Tim, I'm so glad that you're here because I have a question for you.
Yes.
You are a former Missouri legislator.
Mhm.
You are a former Speaker of the House.
Yes.
You have some good insight into, why some things get legislated and why they don't. We've got several laws going into effect tomorrow in Missouri. One of which is the fact that the Missouri schools are going to be required to add Stop the Bleed kits in 2026. Have you heard about this?
I have not.
Okay.
This is something that was, from the looks of it, probably in some giant education omnibus bill.
Yeah. I mean,
'Cause I don't remember it as a standalone.
They're okay. I understand being prepared for medical emergencies.
Yes.
That's important.
Yes.
I'm not sure, and I'm not saying there's never reason why there might be a need for a Stop the Bleed kit, but it kind of makes it sound like, our schools are like, having mass
Gore factories.
Which
Fangoria. Yeah.
I'm not sure what the push for it was, but the thing that I'm really not sure about is this. Even if having one of these kits and people trained to use it is a good idea, which I don't have any reason to dispute, why was this something that needed to be legislated?
Because sometimes you have to tell the educrats to put one foot in front of the other.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I'm sure, Susie, it probably had something to do with funding, right?
Yeah.
And the schools were probably like, well, we can't just voluntarily do this. You're going to have to pass legislation and then provide an appropriation for it. So some people would say that this is a mandate, and you never want to have an unfunded mandate.
Of course.
But on the other hand, I agree with you. Do we have to always stop the stupid by passing legislation? Like, do we have to tell people that breathing requires you to breathe in and breathe out on a
Right.
daily basis? And so couldn't they have just done this with the state board? I don't know what all the powers are of the State Board of Education, but couldn't they have done this through like a rule or regulation change instead of passing an act, literally an act of Missouri Congress?
Or couldn't individual school districts say, hey, for our nurse, our first aid needs, we want to have X, Y, and Z available? Like, couldn't school boards say we want to have this basic equipment available?
I guess they could. I guess, Susie, is this another example of the fact that common sense isn't so common anymore?
Maybe.
I mean, okay, when you're going through your checklist of like what your school should have,
Yeah.
All right, we should have doors on the buildings.
Right.
Okay,
Windows.
Yeah, windows. Windows are good.
Desks.
If because it's hot here in Midwest, and it's not because of climate change. It's always been hot here in the summer, and it's always been cold here in the winter.
It's true.
Okay, I know it was 70 degrees 3 days ago, but this morning it was 20.
Right.
So we need HVAC. We've got little kids running around, and some bigger kids, and kids getting accidents, and they hurt themselves. I did. I still have scars from grade school. I fell on this big thorn once and punctured my lower part of my wrist. I was like, "Ooh, that hurt."
It was on the playground and that gravel.
Yes.
Gets,
And they get in fights, and they drop things, and they cut themselves, and so we should have first aid stuff, right? Like, don't they have nurses?
Yeah.
Like, okay, here's a good question: why doesn't the school nurse already have the Stop the Bleed kit in part of the school nurse arsenal?
Well, and this is kind of circling back to us. I was
Or
like,
is this some complicated, expensive item that I'm not quite up to speed on? I am a former, but very former emergency medical technician. I went through that training when I was in my college. No, when would I do that? Yeah, my college years.
Yeah.
So that was a million years ago. But I was an EMT, and so I know that stuff. Some of those crash kits there's a lot to them. We used to carry these big orange bags around, and there's a lot to that. So maybe this is more complicated, like more of like an AED kind of a thing.
This is what it's okay. So it says under the new state law, that we must develop a traumatic blood loss protocol for school personnel to follow in the event of an injury involving traumatic blood loss.
Sounds like something involving like a medical corpsman, like out in the field in like the war.
Well, I mean, I guess the elephant in the room would be, we do have school shootings that are continuing to go on. And
there you go.
A lot of the people that perish from those, it's not from actually being shot initially, it's from blood loss. And if you are a nurse and there's an active shooter and somebody, you can't get to them, it might be in the best interest of their classmates to know how to administer proper first aid, perhaps.
This is what I'm getting to. I want to know who pushed for this. Is it the people that make these and provide them to schools? Is it someone who's on a like maybe an anti-2A kick? Is it some sort of circuitous way to say, well, we have to have these supplies because we live in these dangerous times because people have guns?
And you Republicans won't get rid of the guns,
right,
which are not the problem.
I want to know more about what necessitated this particular law.
Now, something I will advocate for, it's a different item. I think schools do have these already because I have seen them in schools, are the AED machines.
Yes.
The defib machines. And I have a real life example of where someone who I personally know, his life was saved. I was not there. I was out of town, but it happened at the Legends, the golf course community where I live. And it was a friend of mine who's a little younger than me. So it was a little bit of a wake up call. I went to grade school with him, 7 years younger. So I'm in my mid 50s. He's in his late 40s, and he had a cardiac event. And thank God we have an AED machine at the club. It hadn't been used in forever. Someone's like, "Where is it?" And they're like, "It's on the second floor by the coat closet." Yeah. So they got that out. There was another person there that knew CPR, and they brought his name's Tim as well. They brought my friend Tim back to life, and he is okay now. But so anyway, I think it's a good idea to have things like that. But I, like you, Susie, I don't know the legislative history of how and why this came to pass.
I might look into that because it has piqued my curiosity. Again, not that I think it's a bad idea. Just like you should have fire extinguishers, you should have basic first aid kits and defibrillators and those anti-choking things, something, all those things are good ideas. Why do we need to pass a law?
Why do we need to pass a law? Like, why do we need to pass a law to do some of these things that should maybe be in the realm of acceptable common sense?
I'm wondering.
Yes.
I think it's probably already against the law to run your vehicle into a building.
Most likely
But
so.
Jerome, you can back me up on this. We seem to have been experiencing a spate of car versus building incidents.
It seems like the St. Louis tradition is you check out the arch, you get some emos, and then you crash your car into a building.
This has been happening regularly in and around the St. Louis area. Now, this one I think happened over in Illinois, but a semi truck crashed into the Jackie Joyner Kersey Foundation Wrestling Center.
Wow.
Yeah.
Does that also go along with other Midwest traditions like leaving mattresses on the sides of roads? And
Yes.
things of that sort.
Yeah,
Yes.
that could be part of it. You have to wonder. Now, this one, it sounds like it was someone it was a truck that was escaping something else. So it's not clear if it was maybe a stolen vehicle or whatever, but it crashed through the front fence and slammed into the building. It occurred at 4 a.m. when an unidentified driver was seen on video flying down Lynch Avenue at high speed.
Wait, so it wasn't that the driver lost control. You said it sounded like they may have been fleeing or a stolen vehicle, because semi trucks are not. I mean, those are not easy to just carjack.
Get this: the truck's hood flew open during the drive, and the driver narrowly missed running into a train. The driver then reversed and smashed through a fence and hit the wrestling facility. So, sounds like something nefarious was already going on, and it wasn't just an accident, but still.
Sounds like a scene out of Fast and Furious 12 or something. You know?
We've had several of these conversations over the past couple of months because it seems to keep happening. Cars keep running into buildings. People keep running in cars.
I didn't know that the Jackie Joyner Kersey Foundation had a wrestling center.
They do. And it's actually brand new, I think.
Another thing I learned. Oh, not anymore.
Might need a few repairs now.
Was there a match going on? Or
no,
it could have just been somebody trying to practice their intro for the upcoming
right
match.
WWE style.
Big entry. Yeah. Well, it was at 4 a.m, so
probably
I don't know. But yeah, I saw that and it caught my eye because we've talked about that quite a bit on the show because it just seems to keep happening.
And as a gentle reminder to anybody trying to test if their vehicle is strong enough to withstand the force of a building, the building's not going to move and get out of the way, and so you should definitely not try to ram yourself. In fact, you should try to avoid.
You're not going to win in that situation.
You should try to avoid hitting the stationary buildings that have already been there before you got here altogether.
It's a pretty good rule of the road. I think that is a law, and it should be a law.
Indeed.
Real quick before we get out of here, this I know we're talking about doing away with the state income tax, and that there's a lot of push for that. But the state auditor is warning that there's a vanishing general revenue surplus as spending rises. So it sounds to me like we also need to address the spending issue, not just the revenue issue.
I heard your interview with Camelia Pearson of AFP Missouri yesterday, and she brought up that very point. It's something that I have been beating the drum on for a long time. When I left the legislature, not in the Stone Ages or the Cretaceous period, but barely 10 years ago, Susie, the budget of the state of Missouri, all in federal and state and local dollars that goes into the state budget, $26 billion. 10 years later, it's nearly $53 billion.
So it's doubled.
It has doubled in 10 years. And yes, we need to stop the spending.
Yeah.
As the famous CNBC fella said, Rick Santelli said on the stockroom floor many years ago, which many believe was credited to him as launching the Tea Party revolution.
Yeah, stop spending.
And if there's anybody who doubts that there's waste, fraud, and abuse in government, we've got at least 9 billion reasons, courtesy of Minnesota, to prove you otherwise.
Oh, yes, we do.
Democrats may claim the word of the year is affordability, but the word of the moment is fraud. We'll talk about that with Ward Clark coming up next.
Mike Ferguson in the morning
In the Ice Age, how much taxes did people pay?
on News Talk STL. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Meteorologist Chance Koch with your first alert forecast. We're tracking partly cloudy skies, highs towards the lower 40s. Things will look to cool down slightly into New Year's Day on Thursday, a high of 38 degrees, partly cloudy. Conditions remain back towards the lower 40s as we head throughout Friday and this upcoming weekend. Temperatures will look to continue to rise, remaining dry throughout much of next week. Highs back towards the lower 50s and upper 40s. Then Thursday and Friday of next week will welcome chances of showers. On the First Alert 4 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Chance Koch.
1 in 4 women will have an abortion before the age of 45 in this country. That's the tragedy we must work to stop. Mike Ferguson from The Morning Show here, and that is why Reach Reproductive Health is here, to empower parents to save the lives of innocent children and to see these families come to Christ. And you can be a part of saving and changing lives. So pray and visit outreachforlife.org to learn more, volunteer, and donate. That's outreachforlife.org.
NewsTalkSTL is proud to have Doug Voss of Safe Money Radio as part of our lineup each week. Doug has been a staple on the St. Louis radio airways for many years as one of the leading financial experts in the area. You can now hear Doug and Safe Money Radio 2 times every weekend on NewsTalkSTL. But in case you miss anything, you can check it all out at DougVossSafeMoneyRadio.com. You could also reach Doug at 844-676-SAFE. That's 844-676-7233.
Doug Voss is a registered representative. Securities offered through DHL Securities, LLLP, member FINRA and SIPC.
Looking for an underwater adventure or a scaly new friend? Dive into Tropical World Pets on Watson Road. For 32 years, this family-owned wonderland has been St. Louis's go-to destination for all things aquatic and reptilian. With over 7,000 square feet of aquariums, we're home to the area's largest selection of freshwater fish, including rare cichlids you won't find anywhere else. But that's not all. We've got tarantulas, snakes, and lizards galore. Tropical World Pets, 314-849-4020, or visit twpstl.com.
All the information I need on the drive to work.
Mike Ferguson in the morning. I keep it on throughout the day, whether it's local, national, or something big that's happening overseas.
News, analysis, and opinion.
St. Louis is #1 for conservative talk.
NewsTalkSTL.
Any way you want it, that's the way you need it. Any way you want it. She loves to laugh, she loves to sing, she does everything. She loves to move, she loves to groove, she loves a lot of things.
Good morning, Missouri. It's your boy, Joe Pags. I'll talk to you tonight at 10. But right now, let's get back to Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Welcome back to Mike Ferguson in the morning. Susie Moore here, filling in for Mike. Got Tim Jones with me, got producer Jerome with me. And I have my very good friend and colleague, Ward Clark, our Alaska man, who's so gracious that he is up in the middle of the night, his time, to talk to us this fine last day of 2025. Good morning, Ward. How are you?
Good morning, Susie. Just fine. And you're right. It's 3:30 in the morning here, but this is the price I pay for living in the great land.
That's right. It's a little bit of a trade-off, but you're willing to make it. I know how much you love your time in Alaska for sure. I wanted to talk to you. You've been covering a lot of these fraud stories that, of course, they seem to be like erupting every which way. But you found one yesterday that you covered that I thought was interesting and important to emphasize. There was a HUD audit. Housing and Urban Development did an audit that exposed how Biden-era funds were going to non-citizens and dead citizens.
Yeah, that's the amazing part. I don't know what housing dead people need other than a coffin or an urn.
Right.
But apparently, and I noted that I wasn't able to reach George Romero to find out what he thought of the whole thing. But yeah, there were thousands of people. It started with an audit in Colorado, and apparently it's gone nationwide. They found in the thousands of deceased people who are still receiving these subsidies. And what that tells me is it's probably surviving family members or household members that have either just let the deposits keep going or actively perpetrating the fraud to keep receiving these funds. Now that's happened. This time it was with HUD money. A couple of years ago, I remember reading about it was a Social Security fraud. That people were still claiming benefits that belonged to their parent or grandparent who had passed away, and they were still collecting the benefits. They hid the death from Social Security, and in this case, they may have hidden the death. And of course, the report that I wrote about doesn't break that down. But I suspect that's the case in at least some of these, where there was active concealment of somebody dying.
Ward, Tim Jones here. Great to speak with you again. Thanks for joining us this morning. Ward, what is it about the left and Democrats and progressives that they often claim that waste, fraud, and abuse is just a right-wing talking point? I mean, Why do they want to perpetuate the fraud, the waste, and the abuse? Is it because if you start questioning any aspect of government, then their whole house of cards might come down around them? Is that what they fear?
I think that's a big part of it. They never have seen spending they weren't in favor of, and the underlying philosophy of the left is that we just heard it from the new mayor of New York that government, there's no problem government can't solve. Whereas the right tends to look at it and think there's no problem that government can't make worse. And when they are forced to acknowledge that there's massive fraud, I mean, this is huge, tens of thousands of cases uncovered in one audit, then they're having to admit that it's not working, and they don't want to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, and we're seeing that resistance and that pushback with regard to the Minnesota fraud, which has just kind of gone, through the roof, the coverage of it and the discussion about it over the past few days, particularly as a result of the viral video that Nick Shirley put out there regarding the daycare centers. But we know it's not just daycare centers. It's there's multiple arenas in which we're learning that there's just been this massive ripoff of taxpayer dollars. You also covered the fact that the daycare center issue isn't brand new. I mean, the video's new, but it's been being looked into and talked about and eyebrows raised over for nearly a decade, hasn't it?
For at least 10 years, at least. Just the Somali community in Minnesota, there was several people taken to trial based on a videotape from 2015.
Wow.
So this has been going on for some time. These people come from a very low trust society. And, it's not just Somalia. Big parts of Africa are low trust societies. Parts of Asia are low trust societies. The United States, Western civilization tends to be a higher trust society. We accept that most people are going to try and do the right thing. But China and other places like that and Somalia are very low trust society. They assume you're going to try to rip them off, and everybody behaves accordingly. But when you take people from a low trust society and drop them in a higher trust society, you're going to have problems like this. They see an opportunity for cashing in on something, they're going to take it, and they lack moderation. The Somali community that's trying this stuff, if they'd have skimmed off a couple of grand here, a couple of grand there, they probably could have done it for years, and nobody would have noticed. Took in 25 kids in a daycare and claimed 30, but they got carried away and they took millions, and now it's all coming to light. And it's been kind of fun watching the left's noses get rubbed in it.
Yeah, Ward, this discussion we're having reminded me of an interview I saw a few weeks ago with Stephen Miller, who is one of the president's, top advisors that the left really loves to loathe. And he's such a master at coining phrases. And he said that this is right when this whole thing was breaking a few weeks ago. And he said, this is part and parcel of the Somaliazation of America. And of course, the left immediately called him a horrific racist. But what he was talking about was what you were talking about, which is basically a civilizational difference, right? It's not a racial difference. It has to do with Western civilization and the constructs of law and order versus what you were describing with these regions of the planet where they have no trust in government. And so they have no problem ripping off, whatever small vestiges of government there are. And this is also what you get, right, Ward, when you import a huge group of people from a very different part of the world, and there is an absolute failure to assimilate. There's an absolute failure to have the great American melting pot, right?
Yeah. Well, it's not just a failure to assimilate. It's a deliberate resistance to assimilation. We're seeing it even more in Europe, where you've got these tremendous enclaves. There's places in Copenhagen and some of the other cities of Oslo, some of the cities in Scandinavia where the police can't go. There's becoming places in Britain, in some of the cities there, in Birmingham, and even in London, where the local police aren't allowed. They won't enter those areas. It's a deliberate resistance. They're trying to co-opt the culture, and it's kind of a magic dirt thing. They see these prosperous Western nations and think if they go there, they can magically become prosperous somehow. And it's not the land; it's the people. It's the culture that made those nations prosperous. And they're just going to get dragged down because when you import the third world, you become the third world.
Well, I would say some of the people that are being imported are then becoming prosperous because they've figured out a way to game the system and think it's, they're entitled to do so. I do think it's interesting that we are seeing, the kind of the lid be blown off of it, and I'm anxious to see, where this all leads. Definitely, at least there's some necessary focus on it. Ward,
there is, and
go ahead.
This is something the GOP should hit in the primaries. It was a stroke of luck for Republicans. It's horrible for the taxpayers. It's a stroke of luck for Republicans. You're handing them a campaign issue, and it's once again that famous Trump luck has struck for him in the midterms, because this is an issue he can hammer the left with. I swear, Donald Trump, there are times I think he could fall in a manure pile and come up with a pony. And this is a case like that.
Perhaps. Ward, one of the things that I appreciate so much about your contributions at RedState is that you're one of our regular VIP writers. For those who don't know, we've got a VIP program, which is a small subscription program, small fee prescription program that helps support what we do. And so that gives you access to added content, sort of longer form articles, things that take a deeper dive or maybe cover topics that aren't sort of all over the news splashy. And Ward does a great job of covering a lot of those topics. A lot of them are climate related. A lot of them are energy related. You noted that there's been an interesting development with regard to hybrid vehicles and the fact that new research is showing you're maybe 3 times more likely to die in a hybrid vehicle.
In an accident involving a hybrid vehicle, yes. It hit me kind of hard because one of our 4 daughters drives a Ford hybrid, and she loves it. But when she was showing me the car, and she opens the trunk and said, "Here's my only problem, Dad. There's no trunk space because there's this enormous battery in there." And that is the problem. Apparently, it's not as much of a problem with pure electric cars, although those are prone to battery fires, especially if you have a Chinese battery, where their quality control is suspect. But the combination of the gasoline tank, the gasoline engine, and that battery and the electrical drive system is apparently uniquely dangerous. A gas tank ruptures, those batteries can run hot, especially as they age. And this was a study done in Britain, and they found that once you normalize the data, because of course there are still, even in Britain, there are far more petrol, as they say, driven cars than hybrids. Once you adjusted for that number, the number of fatal accidents, you were 3 times more likely to suffer a fatal accident in a hybrid than in a petrol powered car.
And
that's because of fires.
And Ward, I was going to ask you, speaking of that gigantic battery, one thing that the greenies never will admit is how much strip mining and natural resources go into just making one of those big car batteries that go in every single one of those vehicles, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. But that's okay, because that happens in China and sub-Saharan Africa, and places where they can't see it.
All right.
So
that's the difference.
Out of
The old
sight, out of
NIMBY
mind,
attitude.
it seems.
Yeah.
And frankly, we're starting to do a lot of that rare earth mining right here in Alaska, because Alaska is America's treasure chest, and we have a lot of those minerals, along with a lot of things like just copper and tin, which are valuable strategic minerals.
Well,
but they can't see it up here either.
Hopefully, if we're doing that, we're doing it in ways that aren't as detrimental to the environment as is done elsewhere.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing they don't like to admit is our mining practices and our for that matter, all of our extraction processes are much more advanced and much cleaner, and we go along and clean up after them.
Yes.
And try to restore the landscape, even when it's being done somewhere. There was one of the latest mineral developments is about 80 miles northeast of Nome. There's nothing out there. There's nobody out there, and they're still going to clean it up when they're done. When that mine's played out, the area will be reclaimed, and then you won't be able to tell when you're flying over it in a bush plane that there was anybody there.
That's the way to do it,
because that's how we do things.
Yeah. Well, Ward, really do appreciate you getting up so early to talk with us on this New Year's Eve. Always enjoy your insight on things. Before we let you go, let folks know where they can check out you and your work.
At RedState, of course, that should be the first place you look. You can find me on Truth Social and on X at The Great Lander.
Awesome. Thanks, Ward. Have a happy new year.
Thank you. Happy New Year to both of you.
Thank you, Ward.
You know, as we close out 2025, what were some of the biggest news stories of the year? We're going to cover that. And some of the biggest stories were at RedState up next.
Susie Moore
The Republicans aren't perfect, but the other side's crazy.
on News Talk STL. News, analysis,
glad you're talking about this.
opinion.
I'm glad you're fired up about it too, because I know I am.
News Talk STL.
Looking for unbelievable deals? Stop by Overstock Outlet in Lake St. Louis or Warrenton. Open 7 days a week. Discover big savings on a huge variety of merchandise with no hassle. Just great prices. Visit us in Lake St. Louis on Highway N or in Warrenton on Boones Lake. Check out our Facebook page at Overstock Outlet Lake St. Louis or go online to overstockoutletstl.com. Unbeatable value, friendly service, and you never know what we'll have at Overstock Outlet.
Hey, it's Susie Moore. If new flooring makes you think hassle, think again, because Michael's Flooring is changing the game. For over 30 years, Michael's has been locally owned and trusted for quality, variety, and amazing service. Whether it's carpet, hardwood, laminate, luxury vinyl, or ceramic tile, their expert team makes installing new floors exciting, not stressful. That's why customers keep coming back. Visit Michael's Flooring at St. Peter's, Starting Prairie, Creve Coeur, or online at igotfloored.com. That's igotfloored.com.
Do you owe the IRS $10,000 or more in back taxes? Are you being audited or investigated? Has the IRS sent you a letter demanding payment? You may not owe what they claim. Make this free call to the tax doctor now. Let them negotiate with the IRS on your behalf.
800-240-4586. 800-240-4586. That's 800-240-4586.
This hour of Mike Ferguson in the Morning is brought to you by Stifel. Request a portfolio review from your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Carry on my wayward son. There'll be peace when you are done. Lay your weary head to rest. Don't you cry no more.
Hi, it's Randy Tobler here. Pour a big cup of coffee and catch my show every Saturday morning from 6 to 9. Right now, it's back to Mike Ferguson in the morning here on News Talk STL.
Carry on, my wayward son.
There'll be peace when you are done.
I feel like I've heard that somewhere. Welcome back to the Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show here on this fine New Year's Eve day. Tim, one of the things that I couldn't resist doing as in my role as deputy managing editor at RedState was looking back over the year and saying, you know, what were like the biggest stories each month? Because it seems like in this news cycle, you know, something's like the biggest thing ever.
Yes.
And then 2 months later, you're like, oh, like I
Yes.
totally forgot about that. So I went through and I compiled for each month of 2025 what the top story was for that month.
Oh, fascinating.
So I'm going to throw some of these at you and see if you even like remember or
If they happened?
If they happen. Right. So January, the biggest story, and this wasn't necessarily the biggest story in terms of the amount of coverage. This is just what got the most views at RedState. Like what was it that really caught people's attention for us for January? I thought this was interesting.
So these are RedState metrics.
These are RedState metrics
Okay.
only.
Okay.
So yeah, keep that in mind. This is just okay. What article did people look at the most for us in a given month? January was the fact that Donald Trump stripped the 51 spies who lied security clearance.
Oh, yes. Clapper and Brennan
Yep.
and the other losers.
Yep, that one caught the most eyeballs. I think people are like thinking, yeah. I mean, he had just taken office, and immediately we were seeing consequences. We were seeing some of the people who had abused their power being kind of called on the carpet for it.
There's a lot of people, not a lot. There's some people who claim that they are supporters of the president who are now grousing about the fact that he hasn't arrested and jailed more people. And on one hand, I understand the anger about the lack of accountability that continues to reign supreme in this country. On the other hand, if Donald Trump were to just do that, then the left would be justified in saying he's an autocrat and a tyrant and a dictator. The president can't just go out, not even Donald Trump can go out and just be judge, jury, and executioner, because we have a system of jurisprudence. Now, do I want people like Brennan and Clapper and how about Fauci to be held accountable for their crimes against Americans and all humanity? Absolutely. But you can't just wave a magic wand or a presidential scepter or sign an executive order and throw these people in jail.
Well, that's true. And
they have to have due process.
They do. And I think people get impatient, and I understand that because they feel like other people haven't always been given that courtesy.
Well, that is true. Yeah. Is our justice system always fair and blind? No.
Right. No. And I totally get that. But as a recovering attorney, and Tim, I know you can relate to this, I understand that there is a process. There's like a case you have to build. If you want to actually successfully prosecute somebody, you got to have your ducks in a row, and you got to make sure your case is going to hold up because it's going to be challenged. So it's a process. And I think.
And people get upset when you and I start talking about these things and their eyes glaze
over
and they think it's tedious. And they are justified in some respect. They say, well, why did Donald Trump have 80,000 felony charges filed against him and Hillary Clinton never had one? I said, great point. Great point. Because of who was in charge of the levers of government. And let's say this, because of the grace of Donald Trump. When he won and beat her, what was the first thing he said, Susie? He said, all right, that was the campaign where she's been punished enough. Her crown has been shattered. She was coronated. Hillary Clinton was coronated by everybody from the New York Times on down. And when it didn't happen, Donald Trump felt that was punishment enough, and he moved on. Whereas the left are so vindictive and angry and horrible. Kind of my theme of the show today is how evil the left has become, that they do pursue their political opponents unfairly, unjustly. And unfortunately, we on the right have to constantly be on our heels defending ourselves against baseless charges and allegations, whereas we are often reactionary and we don't go after our political opponents. Once we win elections, we move on to governing the nation.
Well, the other thing, too, is I think that we are still going to see some repercussions coming through, for instance, for the John Brennans of the world. I mean, some of that is in motion. I
hope so.
We aren't privy to everything that's going on behind the scenes, but there have been whispers of it. We know there have been grand jury subpoenas issued. So I think people just need to give it a chance before, basically pulling their hair out over it. But I understand their anxiety over it. One of the other top stories early in the year was the saga of Mahmoud Khalil. You remember him?
Was he a terrorist?
Well, no, he was a student.
Okay.
Who led some of the pro-Hamas protests at Columbia University?
Quasi-terrorist.
He's a Syrian national.
He's a terrorist in training.
Here on a visa, and of course, because of his activities.
Oh, he became a cause celeb for the left.
Right. He wasn't the Maryland dad. He preceded the Maryland dad, but his is one of the big immigration cases that's been mucking up the courts for now 9 months. Back in March, there was all this jockeying going on. We had an article about the fact that it looked like at that point, the Trump administration had kind of outfoxed the opposition in terms of where his case was being brought and whether he'd be successful. Well, here we are 9 months later, and the case is still proceeding because now it's up on appeal. There's actually 3 different cases. There's an immigration case, there's an appeal, there's all kinds of stuff going on.
All that litigation is still pending?
And he's still here.
Against Mahmoud Khalil?
Yeah. Still going on.
The left could have a new theme song based on the great Willie Nelson. To all the terrorists and criminals I've loved before, I mean, their constant defense of these people is really astounding. And I think it's one of the reasons why CNN, of all places, was reporting on the record basement low approval rating of congressional Democrats.
Yeah. Yeah, it is fascinating, the fervor with which they have embraced some not so savory characters just in the effort.
Outlaws and disorder.
Exactly. Yeah. In order to oppose Donald Trump, you're going to make a hero out of Kilmar Abrego Garcia. And I understand taking issue with the approach to immigration enforcement. I understand saying we don't agree with this, we want to do it differently, even protesting, but the kind of instinctive knee-jerk embrace of people who have criminal backgrounds, people who are here legally,
Yeah, 'cause
people who are
Garcia-
flouting the system.
Susie, wasn't Garcia adjudicated previously on
Oh,
for
yeah, he had
various
a
criminal
removal order.
charges? So the guy has a rap sheet.
Oh, no, he does not have a rap sheet.
Doesn't have a rap sheet, but he was involved, I believe, in MS-13 gang activity.
He is suspected of being that, which is one of the reasons why he was slated for removal back in 2019. It's just they didn't get around to removing him. And then when they did remove him, they removed him to the one place that he was supposed to not be taken to, which was his native country of El Salvador. Go figure.
It's like boofing the football.
It is. Yeah. It is. And so now he's back, and they're trying to prosecute him for human smuggling because he does seem to have been involved in that. But now that judge is saying that he thinks it's a vindictive prosecution. So it's not even clear that trial is going to go forward. And here we are all these months later, just like with Mahmoud Khalil, we've got somebody who's not supposed to be here and they're still here, and the left is championing them.
I'd like to hear more of these stories later on in the show.
Hey, it's Vic Porcelli here with our great friend Chris Cooper from Serenity Wealth Management. Hi, Chris.
How are you, Vic?
I don't want to put anybody else down, but that when you go up and visit you at Serenity Wealth, your place looks like home.
So a lot of financial advisory offices, they have, the big mahogany desk or the big marble entryways and things like that. The stock market channel on the TV when you walk in the door, right? That doesn't really drive a good conversation. Good financial guidance and advice starts with a good conversation. People are nervous. People are afraid to talk about finances, right? And so you can see a little standoffish. Well, my objective is to try to have a good, casual conversation. By having those conversations about life, goals, objectives, it's what makes me understand what our financials are supposed to fund.
So if somebody does want to have a good conversation, how do they do that? How do they find you?
Our website is the best way to do that because you can get all the information you need, understand where we are, get a little bit more information, all that. SerenityWealthNow.com.
Reach out to Chris and Stacy today at SerenityWealthNow.com.
Investment advice offered through Fortis Capital Advisors, LLC.
JC's Wayback Machine.
I would not recommend contracting this flu that has been going around. I'm on my 5th day, sick as a dog. But by Saturday, I'll feel all better, right? And we'll have plenty of great tunes for you from the 90s, 80s, and 70s, and a healthy dose of pop culture. All brought to you by the Weber Automotive Group.
It's JC's Wayback Machine. Every Saturday night, 6 to 9. On News Talk STL. The latest news.
What the president is doing is pretty much forcing them both to the table.
President Trump recently announcing that he had a phone call with Vladimir Putin.
Ukraine has negotiated in good faith.
Epstein victims and lawmakers have renewed demands to release those other names. Another stabbing by an illegal migrant.
The Trump administration is celebrating an economic boom. The hottest country anywhere in the world.
We're going to have a gigantic refund year.
101.9 and 94.1.
St. Louis's #1 for conservative talk.
News Talk STL. KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 101.9, 94.1, and always streaming at NewsTalkSTL.com.
Breaking news this hour from Town Hall. I'm Rex Thomason. Well, here it comes. 2026 is on the way, already having arrived in Auckland, New Zealand, among other places. In New York City, the new year will be celebrated with the traditional Times Square ball drop, which has spawned a flock of imitators of various stripes.
Unique local items, including food, are among the ways Americans will welcome in 2026 from sea to shining sea. As a sample, there's a chili pepper drop in Las Cruces, New Mexico, a cheese wedge drop in Plymouth, Wisconsin, a conch shell drop in Key West, Florida, and a moon pie drop in Mobile, Alabama. All are a nod to the high-profile festivities in New York City's Times Square, whose tradition dates back to 1907, whose ball becomes more and more sophisticated with technology every new year. George Williams, Washington.
Federal child care funding to Minnesota is being frozen amid allegations of fraud. Deputy HHS Secretary Jim O'Neill vows no more abuse of taxpayer dollars anywhere.
I've activated our Defend the Spend system for all ACF child care payments across America.
Starting today, we require a justification, receipt, or photo evidence before we make a payment.
And the investigation of suspect Minnesota child care facilities is intensifying.
I just signed and sent a demand letter to Governor Walz. I required a full 360 review of these centers. This includes attendance records, licenses, complaints, investigations, and inspections.
He says fraudsters should expect to be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. A day's outing turned deadly on Southern California's Mount Baldy. One hiker died after falling about 500 feet. During the search and rescue operation, crews discovered the bodies of 2 other deceased hikers as well. Watching Wall Street this morning, stock futures in the red so far this morning. Dow futures down 33, NASDAQ futures off 54 points. More on these stories at townhall.com.
They say timing is everything in the gold and silver markets, and it's true. Dennis Prager here for AmFed Coin and Bullion. Although you can buy at the right time, if you buy the wrong coins, you may not make a profit. When gold was $400 an ounce, many people were talked into buying high-grade old gold and silver collector's coins. Unfortunately, most of the people who bought these so-called semi-numismatic coins, like $20 St. Gordon's and Liberty Head gold coins, have not broken even on their investment. Incredible, given that gold has risen approximately 525% since then. So while timing is everything, if you buy the wrong coins, the timing simply doesn't matter. Having a dealer who cares about positioning you in the right types of coins or bullion will mean more to your portfolio than anything else. That's why I deal with Nick Rovich and AmFed Coin and Bullion. Whether you're buying or selling, call 800-221-7694. That's 800-221-7694. Or go to AmericanFederal.com, AmericanFederal.com.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm meteorologist Chance Koch with your first alert forecast. We're tracking partly cloudy skies, highs towards the lower 40s. Things will look to cool down slightly into New Year's Day on Thursday, a high of 38 degrees, partly cloudy. Conditions remain back towards the lower 40s as we head throughout Friday and this upcoming weekend. Temperatures will look to continue to rise, remaining dry throughout much of next week. Highs back towards the lower 50s and upper 40s. Then Thursday and Friday of next week will welcome chances of showers. From the First Alert 4 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Chance Koch.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Rodney and Jen Wallner and the entire Wallner home selling team at Berkshire Hathaway. Call them today at 314-810-SOLD. 314-810-SOLD.
The Herzog Tomorrow Foundation provides private school tuition scholarships through Missouri's new Most Scholars program to cover the cost of accessible, high-quality schooling.
Hi, this is Myella Esser with the Herzog Tomorrow Foundation. Our private school tuition scholarships wouldn't be possible without the support of generous Missouri taxpayers. If you're a Missouri taxpayer interested in redirecting your tax dollars and sending them to Missouri students in need of a better education, please contact me at herzogmostscholars.org.
Better education for students creates a better tomorrow for all. Learn how you can help provide a better education for Missouri students at herzogmostscholars.org. That's herzogmostscholars.org. Also, sign up for The Lion, an initiative of the Herzog Foundation that carries articles covering a wide range of issues facing American families and culture. herzogfoundation.com. That's herzogfoundation.com.
Mike Ferguson.
What is that private pile? Sir, jelly donuts, sir! A jelly donut?
Susie Moore.
Mama don't like tattletales.
Get up! Get up! Can't you hear the alarm?
Get up, St. Louis.
So it's time to get out of bed. Pour yourself the greatest cup of kofifi the world has ever seen. Rise up with one voice. Drain the swamp and take back our country. Today's the day we're going to do it, and it's time to do it right now. Believe me.
Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
Get up! Get up! This is your cousin.
So I always have to coordinate that with the lid on my cup so I don't spill the coffee while I'm dancing, but then I have to open it to take the drink and make sure I don't throw the drink down across my face. And it's, it's just so you guys know, we work really hard to bring you quality kofifi dance here on the Mike Ferguson Morning Show.
I'm cross pollinating, and I don't know, is that legal? I'm cross advertising. I've got my Jeffco Patriot Radio mug here, which is of course on the weekends, and you have a weekend show as well, RedState Radio.
RedState Radio, where we kind of talk about what the top stories were that week and talk to our contributors. It's great,
and we will have programming all this weekend. We're not shutting the big station off at the end of the day today just because it is another weird holiday week.
true.
including the Dr. Randy Toller Show on Saturday morning from 6 to 9 a.m.
Right now.
Found out yesterday from Doc, we had him on Jones and Arp show yesterday, that you guys are doing that live. So I think you're the first official live show of the new year.
No, the Mike Ferguson in the morning show is
On you
Friday.
guys are live on Friday?
Yeah.
Oh.
Did you not know that?
I'll be live from the golf course.
Look,
Susie.
I just keep showing up.
Mike sent out the calendar invites. You do not have to show up tomorrow.
Okay, I just keep showing up, and if there's a show, there's a show, and if not,
we just put you back in the closet and close the door.
Well,
yeah.
as far as
power
I
down.
know, we are, because Mike sent out the calendar invites, and we've been talking about that.
Well, thank you.
Well, God bless you guys.
And thank you for stealing our thunder, even though I'm part of both.
I was gonna say, Jerome, you're part of it. You're an integral part of both shows. So
tired, we're confused. Yeah.
Can you imagine?
I do have my festive flannel on this morning. I wore for you guys.
You
Yeah.
do.
It was kind of an accident.
I have one of my Christmas presents on.
I
It's
like
my
that.
little
Oh, that's very nice.
Snowflake shirt from the Handsome Beau. So yeah.
Yeah, very nice. And you guys are celebrating a little bit tonight. You're going to party hardy a little bit.
Yes, we are. We are going out to dinner at. Well, we had the options of either going at 6 or going at 9. I was like, let's go 6. By 9 o'clock, I might be ready to go to sleep. So we're going out to dinner, and we'll ring in the new year that way. What about you?
We are doing our traditional the Jones traditional New Year that started when my daughters were little girls, and we got a kick out of it back then, and so we just kept it going. We go to Red Robin on New Year's Eve.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, it's just something we do. It started by accident because the girls were little, and we were like, where can we go on New Year's Eve with the kids, and where we don't have to wait very long and all that.
Right.
And so it started off, and we just, you know what? Now it's like the family joke tradition, and we just keep it going.
That's
and so
good.
now that my daughters are 20 and 16, they're bringing a bunch of their friends.
That's awesome.
And Susanna, and it keeps us young, Susie.
Yeah.
We have the bottomless fries, and I'm giving them all this commercial time, and they're not advertised.
Well,
They should be advertised.
Get on it.
And then after that, so we do that early in the evening, and then get the heck off the roads, right?
Yes.
This is amateur night, not like us soaking wet professionals that we are. So no, I'm teasing. So it's amateur night on the road, so don't be on them. So we go back to our enclave out in beautiful Eureka, Missouri, and my younger daughter Abby, who's still in high school, is having some friends over, and a couple of them are spending the night. The rest are going home. We all live within a couple miles of each other.
That's good.
And so everybody will be fully monitored, and it'll be great. And then tomorrow we go to my mom's for dinner in the afternoon after I eventually wake up.
That's
so
fun.
yeah, we will ring in. We ring in the new year. My wife's a night owl. My Susie is a night owl. I'm not. And so after today's show, and I have some other things to do, I will be taking a nap this afternoon. Otherwise, I'll be like comatose by the time it's midnight. But if I get a little nap in, I can rally later, and then I can stay up. I just don't like to. But for tonight, I'll do it. I like watching. Right now we're watching on our monitors that it is Happy New Year in Sydney, Australia.
Yeah.
And I like watching the ball drop because I lived in New York for almost 10 years. I never went to Times Square because, once again, that was for the amateurs.
Right.
And I wasn't there because I was home for the holidays. Now, I could have made plans to stay either I went to Fordham University in the Bronx, and then I was out on Long Island in Queens, and then further out along Nassau County when I was working for the prosecutor's office. And I went to St. John's for law school. So I was up there for almost a decade back in the 90s. And I could have stayed and done all that, but it always seemed to me to be more work than it was worth to go down and stand around in Times Square with 1 million of your closest friends.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I mean, I've been to Times Square when it wasn't New Year's Eve, just to say I was
1 million
there.
times.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But the prospect of being there in that crowd on New Year's Eve has never been something where it's like, oh, that's a bucket list item I have to do.
For those of us that lived and worked in New York, and I did for almost a decade, it was not a thing for us. That was a thing that the tourists did. And so I got on a plane and came back to St. Louis. Now, despite the fact that we now constantly rag on New York, and it deserves all of the criticism that it has been receiving from us, I would encourage people that if you ever have a chance to visit New York City, if you have not, there's 2 places that I'm constantly astounded that people have never gotten to. And, I know some people don't have the ability to travel, but I'm talking about the people that do have the ability to travel. So a lot of my friends who do have the ability to travel, and they tell me they've never been to New York City and they've never been to Washington, D.C.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm like, what's wrong with you? Are you a communist sympathizer? So, and New York is just a magnificent place that truly was built by some of the most amazing entrepreneurs, inventors, and statesmen and women of our nation. True free market capitalists. It is the financial capital of the world until Mondami ruins it. And the architecture, the art, the culture, the food, the sights, the people are not to be missed in your lifetime. Go there one time. And the best time to go would be in and around the Christmas season, because New York is a special place truly during those weeks.
Yeah, I was there in the summertime, but it was still very
Also
nice.
magnificent.
Yeah, and I agree. It's one of those things that I'm glad I'm glad I can say I had that experience. We weren't there for very long. We were only there for like a day and a half. We didn't have a whole lot of time there. But
what struck you?
Two things. Well, three things. First is the pizza is really that good.
It is.
It really is. Like, and I'm not gonna lie. It was after my nephew's wedding. I might have been a little hungover, but that pizza the next day
Even better.
really saved my bacon. It really helped. Okay. The two things that really stuck out to me though was the throngs of people. I mean, I spent a lot of time in Chicago too, and Chicago can be the same way. But you're walking down the sidewalks, and it's just a mass of people. And it's a little overwhelming.
You get that urban press.
Yes. The suburban in me is like,
what? Stop
Like,
touching me.
I'm kidding. Oh my gosh. It's overwhelming because there's just this mass of humanity.
Yes.
And it is a little overwhelming. It's like overstimulation. So that you kind of have to adapt to. And I don't think I could do that all the time. The other thing that really messed me up was because I spent so much time in Chicago, I was used to orienting myself geographically from
North, south, east, west?
where the lake was.
Oh, where the lake was.
The lake was always to the
Yeah.
east. And in New York, you've got the big body of water on both sides
Yes.
of Manhattan. And so we were trying to walk around and I'm like, oh no, the water's over there. That's east. Well, it was the exact opposite. It was the west. And I had us turned around for like 6 blocks walking the wrong direction at one point, because in my mind, that was east.
Yes. And old New York, which is the lower part of Manhattan, makes no sense because it was basically built provincially back in the 1600s, and they just made the streets wherever they wanted to make them. And so it is a hodgepodge of spaghetti strings. It really is. It will really screw you up when you're trying to figure out.
Boston's the same way.
Boston's the exact same way in the north, especially the north end. But as you go further north in Manhattan, where things were settled in later days, then the grid system took over, and it makes much more sense with your streets running east-west and your avenues running north-south.
Yeah. I'm with you though. I think that's one of those things that if you have the chance to experience, you should. It's expensive.
It is.
I'm not gonna lie.
Not gonna lie.
But then DC is too. I mean, if you haven't had a chance to tour like the museums and the monuments, it's just, we get we get so riled up about the swamp, and we're so aggravated by what goes on there, and I legitimately so. And we see, scenes of the White House and the Capitol, but until you've actually been there and seen like the Lincoln Memorial,
It's magnificent.
It really, really
And
is.
it reminds you of the sweat, blood, lives, treasure, and toil that were truly put into the founding of this nation. When you stand in those monuments and read those inscriptions that are forever preserved in marble for all time, it really is overwhelming. I've gotten overwhelmed. My wife will tell you this famous story of, we had gone out to dinner with a big group. We were up there. Maybe it was for an ALEC conference or something. And it was a nice December evening, which it can be in DC.
Sure.
It was crisp. It was chilly. We were all bundled up, right? And then someone had the bright idea to go, let's go walk the mall. And so we did. And it was great. We walked from the Washington Monument through the World War II Memorial, which is outstanding.
It is wonderful.
Down the reflecting pool, right? We didn't walk in the reflecting pool, we walked beside it. And then up into the Lincoln Memorial. And there's all those inscriptions, some of the famous ones that you've learned hopefully in school and you remember for time immemorial 7 years ago. But there's also other pieces of the Emancipation Proclamation and of the Gettysburg Address and some of his inaugural addresses of Lincoln's that are in there. And I was standing there. It was late at night. We may have had an adult beverage or two earlier. And I'm standing there reading this stuff. And I became overwhelmed. I became emotional. My wife's like, get a hold of yourself, man, And I'm like, I was like, all the things that these people dealt with, and we're sitting here in our, in our, in basically in relative, the poor in our country would be wealthy in others is my point. And the wealthy in our country are beyond the imagination of most of the rest of the world. And the middle class in our country live extraordinarily well as well because of everything that was done for us.
Yeah.
And we stand on the people, the shoulders that came ahead of us. So anyway, it all kind of, and I was like, all the crap that we argue over every day, most of it is really pushed by the mainstream media, not by RedState.com, is crap, right? It's all narrative driven. It's really stupid. And we should be working on and trying to solve the major conflicts and problems of the day, like curing cancer, which I believe some American will do at some point in the future.
You're right. Yeah, that really does put it in perspective, especially when you see really, like you said, all of the monuments and the inscriptions and everything. It kind of helps you remember like where we came from.
That's my stump speech for the day.
I'm with you on
So
it.
yes, visit New York City before Mondami absolutely completely ruins it, and go to Washington, D.C.
Highly recommend. We were talking about like the architecture and these wonderful places. The Missouri Capitol can also lay claim to that. The Missouri Capitol is a beautiful, beautiful place. And next Wednesday, we're going to be there live, bringing you the first day of the legislative session for Missouri. So be sure to tune in next Wednesday morning for sure and catch us on the Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show live from the Capitol. Compliments of our friends at AFP Missouri.
Indifference. Stop it right now before you blow us all away.
Mike Ferguson in the morning.
I like it, but they're going a little overboard with the dancing.
On News Talk STL.
This is your cousin. Get up.
On the next Larry Connors USA.
Larry Connors USA. I hope you had a great, blessed Christmas. And now we're ready for a new year coming up.
Larry Connors USA. Now weeknights 6 until 8 on News Talk STL.
1949, the last time a Republican held the top post in St. Louis City. A gallon of milk was 84 cents and streetcars ran down Grand Avenue. Unfortunately, St. Louis City streets are no longer the epicenter of family and business life. In the 80 years of Democrat control, our city has been on a steady decline.
Hello, Kirk Ilsinger, chairman of the Republican Party for the city of St. Louis, and we believe it is our duty to provide a different path forward. I invite you to our meetings the first Thursday of every month. Learn more at stl-gop.com.
Paid for by St. Louis City Republican PAC. Curtis Farber, Treasurer.
The Vic Borselli Show.
It is an honor and a privilege to have U.S. Senator Eric Schmidt.
Hey, I have to tell you, I don't know if I've ever told you this. In the 90s, what would this have been? Mid-90s. Yeah. And I was like, I worked at Grant's Farm and I had a couple other jobs. Then in the afternoon, I would often hear and listen to Borselli's Deli on the radio.
Thank you so much. Thank you for listening. Thank you for making me feel older than I already feel. That's just great.
Vic Borselli, live and local weekday mornings at 9 on News Talk STL.
Hi, I'm Lieutenant Governor David Wassinger. As Christmas approaches, I want to encourage you to support Missouri businesses this holiday season. When you're out shopping for the perfect gift, please stop by a local store and choose something made right here in the Show Me State. Missouri businesses are the backbone of our communities, and supporting them is a priority for me. To find Missouri-made goods and retailers near you, please visit buymissouri.net. Merry Christmas, and please remember to buy Missouri. Paid for by the Office of Lieutenant Governor David Wassinger.
St. Louis's new choice for conservative talk, live and local.
I need to know what's going on in my city.
News Talk STL.
Hey folks, Jamie Allman here, waiting for you for the 3 Martini Lunch, the Common Sense Radio, the Allman Report on News Talk STL. Now back to Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Welcome back to Mike Ferguson in the morning. Susie Moore filling in for Mike here. Got Tim Jones with me. Got Jerome with me. We've been talking about, we're kind of closing out 2025, which was a blur. I'm sorry. It just was a complete blur. Part of it was because, we ushered in a new presidential administration and Donald Trump hit the ground running. This administration has been like pedal to the metal the entire time. And I think that's because they know that they're operating in a very narrow time window.
And they had a lot of damage to repair.
Well, yeah.
And they needed to get on it because the Democrats almost destroyed the nation. And I don't say that in a Pollyannish way. I mean, trillions of dollars of debt, Susie, more debt. Joe Biden racked up more debt. Isn't the stat that he racked up more debt in 4 years than the previous 45 presidents combined?
It is. And even when you account for COVID, it doesn't excuse that.
Right. And it was all, well, that was all a fraud anyway. And it was a lot of unnecessary spending. He destroyed our leadership on the world stage. There were wars breaking out, everywhere you would look, and all the hot spots and then new hot spots. And all this, woke crap, of, mutilating children and sacrificing people on the altar of their DEI gods.
Yeah. It has been kind of fascinating watching the rollback of that. And there's some resistance to that, obviously. But I think a lot of average, everyday Americans are kind of breathing a sigh of relief that we're not just constantly doing this, oppression matrix battle royale of it's, I don't know. I think I'm going to go off on a tangent here. I think most people, not all people, but I think most people generally want to see people treated equitably, fairly. They don't want there to be discrimination, whether it's racial or gender or whatever. They want people to be treated fairly. But then you had this sort of like, I don't know, this really draconian effort from the top down to make everyone conform and, subscribe to this notion. And I feel like there was just this sort of like, okay, we can just breathe.
It used to be tolerance.
Yeah.
It used to be, they used to preach tolerance, and now they demand obedience to their leftist, liberal, progressive agenda.
Well, yeah, and it's all about, it's about taking victimhood and turning it into power.
Yes.
And claiming victimhood when it isn't really there. And I think it's screwed everything up. It's turned everything on its head. So people who generally are of goodwill and want to be kind of like open to it all are like, I'm done. I'm over it.
And
I'm just tired of it.
And isn't it 99 times out of 100, maybe 999 times out of 1,000, a fake, phony, false victimhood?
Yes.
An imaginary oppression.
Yes. So speaking of which, one of our top stories this year, how about that for a segue?
Mm-hmm.
I think it was in May. This one came to us from Banshee. It was titled, "Something is Seriously Wrong with Michelle Obama."
I bet that got now that's clickbait supreme.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. But it was one of those things where she went on another podcast and was talking about basically how awful it was when they were in the White House. They had to pay for their food. They had to pay for everything else as well. Like, you didn't have to pay for your housing, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I think that was free.
I'm pretty sure.
What does she mean she had to pay for her food? I'm so confused by that.
I don't know.
They got a tab at the end of every...
I don't know.
I don't believe this is true.
I'm not sure.
How is a woman who is married to a guy who was president of the United States not once, but twice, and now literally lives in the lap of luxury with multiple homes, not in Detroit, Michigan, or East St. Louis, but in Martha's Vineyard and Hawaii, oppressed? How is this woman oppressed? I don't understand how she can even utter those words out of her mouth.
I don't know, but that seems to be her.
So what is wrong with Michelle Obama?
That seems to be her love language, is victimhood.
Mm-hmm.
Despite
having reached a pinnacle of success that the 1% of the 1% often dreams of reaching.
I could understand it too if it was like, look, it wasn't all like hearts and flowers. It wasn't always a cakewalk. There
It's
was
not
a lot
easy.
there was a lot of negatives that came with it. But she seems to approach it from this perspective of victimhood and how, as I put it, she's never met a complaint whose eye she doesn't want to dot enthusiastically. I don't get it.
Well, and it's interesting too, because she, if I'm not mistaken, she comes from O Block, which is one of, if not the most dangerous areas in Chicago. It's extremely impoverished. And then to be married to the leader of the free world and to enjoy, again, that comes with its own turmoils, but how does somebody go from that to being married to the leader of the world, and you still have some sort of oppression victim complex?
And maybe
unless Obama was oppressing her somehow.
Yeah, and maybe everyone, maybe everyone didn't love her, but a big chunk of society glamorized her.
Very much so.
And placed her on every major national fashion and pop culture magazine.
Right.
That I don't know that there was any that left her out. Whereas there is a complete media, almost a deafening media silence from the national mainstream media as to Melania Trump.
Right.
If anybody's oppressed, it would, Melania would get to make that argument because they've completely, well, it's not even oppressed. It's just they act like she doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Which is almost worse, right? To pretend that you don't exist as a person.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I think she's figured out a way to handle it. And I don't think Melania necessarily wants to be front and center all the time.
I don't think she cares.
I think that's just not her priority. And I think she's finally found a way to navigate that in a way that she's comfortable with and continue to kind of hold her head up.
I think we're more offended than she is.
Probably. But yeah, it's like every time I see a story about Michelle Obama, it's that she's on a podcast and she's either talking about how basically Barack drives her crazy and he's really annoying, or which is like, well, that's a nice way to talk about your spouse.
Yeah.
Or she's talking about basically how it sucked to be the first lady. Oh, well, okay. Good thing is you don't have to do it again.
Yeah. Yeah. How horrible. I had to live at 1600 Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
I mean, and then the Kamala Harris interviews to dovetail off
Oh
of
my
those.
goodness.
Those are a whole different breed of wacky, where she still thinks she's fighting the man. And boy, Trump didn't get one over on her. And I'm like, well, he did because you lost.
After
and
spending $1.5 billion.
Yeah, and she's like living in this all and not acknowledging that she knew that Joe Biden was an empty husk of a human being. I mean, her interviews, at least Michelle Obama's interviews, are interesting, and you can kind of laugh at them.
Yeah.
I watched the Kamala Harris ones, the ones that I'm forced to. And I don't know I still don't know what's going on there.
I don't think she does either. I think that's the problem. And if she wants to have a political future, which she seems to, I think the best thing she could do would be to go away for a little while and let people maybe kind of sort of miss her.
I still can't get over the fact that 60 Minutes was nominated for an award for best editing for the presidential candidacy interview. And I bring that up because it was maybe not as big of a story, but how do you have the entirety of the legacy media trying to push for you to look like the better candidate, and you not only blow through $1 billion and end up in debt, but you still lose?
They won an award, Jerome, for creating propaganda.
Literally.
Yes.
It's insane.
And everyone celebrates it.
Get it.
You had the entirety of the entertainers, social media, legacy media, and they still could not do anything to make you more likable as a candidate.
Mm-hmm.
And then from what I hear, she's thinking about maybe running again.
I don't know. I don't get it.
And then we got Hunter Biden, the gift that keeps on giving.
God.
Yeah. Out there literally trashing his own father's administration now.
Yeah.
And we're all wondering, okay, why is he doing this and what's he running for next?
I don't know. God, he'll probably run for president. Real quick, one of the other top stories this year actually happened in November, and people have already forgotten it. The Second Circuit Court of Appeals gave Donald Trump a real big break with regard to his criminal trial. Remember his New York criminal trial in front of Judge Merchan, where he was convicted of 34 counts of felony fraud,
felony nothing.
Yeah. Business records screw up. Okay, so that conviction may not stand because it was brought in state court.
Mm-hmm.
He tried to remove it to federal court.
Mm-hmm.
They said no. It was tried in state court. He was found guilty. The judgment was entered, but they had already tried again to remove it to federal court because of the Supreme Court immunity decision.
Mm-hmm.
The Second Circuit said, you know what, you guys screwed up. You need to take a closer look at this because this maybe should have been handled in federal court.
Whoa.
We don't even know what's going to end up happening with that, but it's possible that gets thrown out.
Then the entire witch hunt has been erased from human memory.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So just think about that. That's going to be something we'll be hearing about in 2026
Amazing.
for sure. Yeah. The New York Times has a very grave concern about illegal immigration and deportations. Namely, it's about who's going to tend to the shrubs. Up next, we're going to talk to Becky Noble about this very grave concern brought to us by the New York Times.
Bring me a shrubbery.
Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Someone in that control room is out of control.
On NewsTalk STL. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Meteorologist Chance Koch with your first alert forecast. We're tracking partly cloudy skies, highs towards the lower 40s. Things will look to cool down slightly into New Year's Day on Thursday, a high of 38 degrees, partly cloudy. Conditions remain back towards the lower 40s as we head throughout Friday and this upcoming weekend. Temperatures will look to continue to rise, remaining dry throughout much of next week. Highs back towards the lower 50s and upper 40s. Then Thursday and Friday of next week will welcome chances of showers. On the First Alert 4 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Chance Koch.
Your business moves fast. PRI Global keeps it moving smarter for almost 30 years, delivering top tech talent to help companies grow stronger, custom applications, simplifying your operations, securing your data, modernizing your business from the cloud up. And with Prismatic, you're going to get real-time insights, automated workflows, people, process, platform. PRI Global delivers all three. PRIGlobal.com.
Larry Connor's Commentary, brought to you by Vincent's Jewelers, offering a wide selection of jewelry, including lab-grown diamonds, affordable earrings, bracelets, necklaces, and rings, up to 75% off their natural counterparts. Visit vincentsjewelers.com. This is Larry Connor's Commentary on News Talk STL.
So do you know what today is? Whatever you say, I'm betting you're forgetting a big part of our nation's history. In fact, I would put money on it. It was on this date, 1845, when Texas became our nation's 28th state. See, I knew many of you wouldn't get it. Texas became the largest state in the nation and stayed the largest until January 3rd, 1959, when Alaska became our 49th state. But I'll tell you, Texans then and even now believe that Alaska is not our biggest state. It's just a big chunk of ice which we could chip up and put in our drinks. Now, you look back over our nation's history, and it is pretty amazing, all starting with 13 colonies. But first, it's a colony in Virginia, then the 13 colonies, and now 50 states. Yes, I'm including Alaska and Hawaii. Those settlers never envisioned what the future would hold. 50 states and reaching even into the Pacific Ocean. 50 states. Well, wait a minute. Let me correct that again. 49 states and one big chunk of ice. That's how I see it.
Get more Larry Connors on Larry Connors USA.
Tonight at 6 on News Talk STL.
Hey, Columbo here for Rockwood Charcoal. Rockwood is made from 100% pure Missouri oak and hickory, so you're cooking with the best and supporting local industry and a local business all at once. There's over 100 area Rockwood retailers. Find yours at rockwoodcharcoal.com.
Dr. Randy Tobler here, and I know that when you're looking for a dentist, you have to make sure you choose a dental practice that's compatible with you and the needs of your family. Well, I'd like to tell you about my dentist, Dr. Dan Cusimano, and his partner, Megan Dwyer, and their team at Advanced Dentistry at St. Charles. The great team at Advanced Dentistry of St. Charles can accommodate all of your cosmetic and restorative needs because their passion is general dentistry. Implants, crowns, bridges, even dentures. That what you need the most is what they'll provide in a personalized, focused way. And they can provide therapeutic and cosmetic options like Botox and dermal fillers. Get to know them and all they have to offer by calling 636-978-0226 or visit them on the web at advanceddentistrynow.com. That's Dr. Daniel Cusimano and Dr. Megan Dwyer at Advanced Dentistry of St. Charles.
That's Advanced Dentistry Now, 636-978-0226. Or visit them on the web at advanceddentistrynow.com.
Producer Joey V from the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show here, reminding you don't waste a buck on movies that suck. Tune in to Joey V's Movies, Fridays at 5:45 for reviews you can trust. Brought to you by Harry J's Steakhouse and Ami's Pizza.
If you have a phone, you have a radio.
Download the all-new News Talk STL app.
Love the all-new News Talk STL app.
On my way to work in the morning.
Usually I'm in the car.
I listen on the app in my car every morning going to work.
Download the News Talk STL app and listen anytime, anywhere.
The Mike Ferguson Show is one of my favorite programs. In addition to Larry Connor's USA, catch my program at 6. Now, back to Mike.
Back to Susie filling in for Mike, you mean. Hi, Susie Moore filling in for Mike Ferguson here on the Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show. Got Tim Jones with me, got producer Jerome with me, and we've got Becky Noble with us now to talk about, well, all kinds of things. But most importantly, this is a really, really pressing issue for the folks in New York at the New York Times and in New York in particular. No, not the ball drop tonight, not safety, not security. Becky, if I'm reading your article right, the New York Times is gravely, gravely concerned about what's going to happen with the shrubs if people who are here illegally are deported.
They are very concerned. Hi, Susie. Hi, Tim.
Hi.
Happy New
Hello,
Year.
Becky. Happy New Year.
Yes, they're very concerned about this. And what's funny is that, like Tim's been saying, go to New York before Mom Donnie screws it all up.
Mhm.
The shrubs are gonna be the least of their worries. So what they're talking about is that while they're saying that new home building is still kind of stagnant right now, but construction wages are on the rise, and that may spill over into industries like landscaping. And so they're quoting this woman who is an executive at a landscaping business in Chicago, and she's talking about how it's going to be because of ICE raids and immigration, all this kind of thing. You have people who are self-deporting and people who are getting picked up by ICE, and we've all seen the landscaping crews. My neighbor has one a couple doors down that comes cuts her grass in the summer, and you see them in apartment complexes and everywhere else. Well, it's not too hard to figure out that a lot of those landscaping crews are made up of largely immigrants. And so she's talking about how they were easy deportation targets over the summer because they're outside, everybody sees them. And so with all the ICE raids and deportation business that's going on now with the Trump administration, her quote is, "It's going to be much more competitive to find an individual who's been a foreman or a supervisor and has years of experience." So she's talking about how hard it's going to be to find people to, do the jobs that Americans won't do. And the best quote from this piece that she also says, or it's from the New York Times, and it just shows just how completely out of touch and you can tell just by hearing it who reads the New York Times. And they say that, well, there are limits to how much customers will pay for decorative shrubs, and they may opt to go without. Holy cow.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Not the decorative shrubs.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah. What are they going to do? They might have to, I don't know. Is there a Home Depot somewhere on the Upper East Side in Manhattan where they're going to have to go, buy a set of clippers or something? I don't know. That would be even worse. But it just shows, like I said, it just shows so out of touch they are. And that they think that this is what, well, probably people who read the New York Times, but, that this is going to be their biggest complaint. But one of the things that they also said that really was kind of infuriating, and it just shows just how you can't hate them enough, is that they briefly touched upon assimilation, which is something that people are talking about right now, especially with what's going on in Minnesota. And the people that they seem to be calling out and who they say, quote, refuse to assimilate are Amish people. Are you kidding me? Amish people, if they refuse to assimilate, it's because of their religious beliefs, which they have every right to do, not because they've snuck into the country and expect people to give them free stuff. Yeah. I mean, it was if they were looking for an analogy, it was a really, really bad one.
Not the greatest. Yeah.
No. So that's their biggest concern right now. Before Mom Donnie gets sworn in, I think tonight at midnight, if not, sometime tomorrow. Yeah, that's their biggest concern now. Who's going to cut the grass? Who's going to cut the shrubs?
Yeah, I don't think there's any allegations of the Amish defrauding the government yet, but maybe it'll surface later.
No, not that we've heard of.
Becky,
right.
Becky, you're highlighting an issue appropriately so that these liberal publications whitewash, pun intended, every single day for the Democratic Party, right, Becky? And that's this like front and center racism that we see all the time coming out of the mouths of Nancy Pelosi and Jerry Nadler and Maxine Waters and that epic idiot Mazie Hirono, where they are constantly asking, well, who's going to pick the vegetables and pick the cotton. I mean, the absolute abject racism in the Democratic Party, Becky, gets completely ignored every single day by the mainstream media, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I pointed that out. I said it really is reminiscent of that quote from Nancy Pelosi, like you just said, in 2022, where she was saying, well, you know, we need immigrants to pick the crops, you know, as if that's, you know, what do they call that? The soft bigotry of, I don't remember.
Low
the quote. It's early in the
expectations.
morning.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. That's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. You guys are better early in the morning than I am, but
barely hanging on by a thread here. You know,
but yeah, it's just soft racism is what it is.
It is. And I don't know where we ever got this idea that because somebody is an American citizen, they aren't going to do, you know,
blue collar jobs.
I mean, that's ridiculous.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, you know, somebody whose job is changing, as you pointed out at the stroke of midnight tonight, is our good friend, Zoran Mamdani. And I guess so that means he moves into the mayor's mansion. And you noted that if you want to live in his apartment that he's no longer going to be inhabiting because of this move, it's going to cost you. How much is it going to cost someone to live in Zoran's own old apartment?
Well, like I think one of you guys just said a little while ago, or I'll say it, that Zoran Mamdani is going to be the gift that keeps on giving too for the next 4 years. But so at the stroke of midnight or sometime tomorrow, he's going to be sworn in as the next mayor of New York City. And so he's getting ready to move into Gracie Mansion where the mayors live. So that means that there's going to be an apartment. Anyone who's apartment hunting, there's going to be an apartment available in Queens. But the problem with that is that this guy, here's a guy who's never had a real job except maybe for being a New York State assemblyman. His parents are gazillionaires, and he's been getting this apartment. He and his wife have been living in this apartment in Queens, and they're paying $2,300 a month. Well, the reason they're paying $2,300 a month is because this guy whose parents are millionaires has gotten something, and they call it exactly what it is: preferential rent. And what that is that landlords will offer temporarily discounted rent rates on rent stabilized apartments because they want to attract prospective tenants in places that have softer markets. So if you're looking for an apartment and you want to brag to your, I think people are going to be, well, I'll get to that in a minute. But if you want to live in Zoran Mamdani's old apartment, it's going to cost you because the rent's going to go up about 35%, and it's going to cost you an extra $800 a month. And so the rent's going to go up from $2,300 per month to about $3,100 per month. That's quite a hike. So gonna cost you. Don't start packing just yet. So and there's several people. New York city councilwoman and some other people who are pointing out the obvious, basically, and saying this is exactly what Democrat socialists do. You know, it's okay for me, but not for thee. And you know, I get to pay this, but the next poor slob that moves into that apartment is going to get his rent pushed up $800 a month. So,
and Becky, doesn't Zoran's entire philosophy show the hypocrisy of the left in that New York City, if it had been governed by, if New York City at its very infancy up until the present day had been governed by people with his philosophy, New York City as we know it never would have existed, right? New York City was built by entrepreneurs and industrialists and free market capitalists. And so all the great things that it has, the museums, the culture, the skyscrapers, the different neighborhoods, they never would have existed in the first place if New York City had been run by communists from day one.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And you're totally right, is that he's going to come in. I can't wait to see a year from now what his approval numbers are and what he actually has been able to implement in New York, because I think ultimately you're going to end up with people who are super rich and they have so much money that anything that he does is not going to affect them, and very poor people, because all of the people that he wants to tax, everybody that has the means, is going to move. So, but I think there's going to be some white, elderly, rich liberal who voted him into office is going to jump at the chance at paying $800 more a month just so they can brag to their other, white, liberal, elderly friends. Oh, I live in Zoran Mamdani's old apartment, so.
It's got extra cachet.
Right, exactly. So all their friends will go, ooh, but yeah, I mean, Tim's absolutely right. The New York and a city like New York would never have existed were it not for those people who came to this country with nothing and worked and built it up to what it is today. And also while they were building up for themselves, built it up for other people who worked for them, for their employees, because they wanted them to have a better life and their families to have a better life. And so, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see a year from now.
It sure
what
is.
he's been able to implement.
It really is. Well, Becky, really appreciate you joining us on this New Year's Eve morning. Real quick, let folks know if they want to follow you on social media or if they want to check out your work. What's the best place for them to do that?
Well, of course, you can go to RedState.com, and big shout out to all of the amazing writers that we have there. I'm so blessed to be a part of such an amazing group of people. And you can find me, of course, on Facebook and Twitter at BeckyNoble65 and on Substack at gumshoepolitics.substack.com.
Awesome, Becky. Thanks for joining us. Happy New Year.
Thank you so much, you guys. Happy New Year.
Thank you, Becky.
Now, on this New Year's Eve, we have to talk about it, of course. Resolutions.
Mm-hmm.
Have you made any? Did you keep any from last year? Susie and I will interrogate Tim Jones on that when we come back from the break.
Hey, if you haven't made it to Harpo's Chesterfield yet to check out their great beverages and great food, you've still got a few hours left in 2025 to do that. Yeah, that's right. I'm talking about Harpo's Chesterfield. They are closely and conveniently located in the heart of West County. They've been there for like 20 years. It's a great sports bar atmosphere. It's a great place to go if you want to catch up with your friends, hang out, and take advantage of their great daily drink and food specials. If you want to know what those specials are, you can go to harposstl.com. I think that's the right website. Go to harposstl.com and check them out. They've got them listed for each day. Wednesdays, I think, are their strip steak. And I don't know if they've got a special New Year's Eve going on, but usually if they've got special events going on, you can check them out on their Facebook page or on their Instagram page, Harpo's Chesterfield. I always brag about their burgers because they're that good. But they have a full menu. They've got all kinds of great food, all kinds of great drinks. They've got a fun, friendly atmosphere, fun, energetic staff. So if you want a good place to go hang out with your friends, catch up, watch the sports, go to Harpo's Chesterfield.
I'm Dr. TJ, owner of the Institute of Natural Health, co-owner of Optimal Nutraceuticals, and the host of Wellness One. Wellness One is designed to cut through the nonsense and provide you common sense, science-based information regarding health and wellness. On the show, we discuss topics like thyroid health, gut health, hormone optimization, and many others. Our show airs Saturdays at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. and Sundays at 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. right here on NewsTalkSTL. And you can visit us at inhstl.com. That's inhstl.com.
If you're worried about losing your health insurance through Medicaid, we have great news for you. New government regulations have expanded the Affordable Care Act. And now you may qualify to get health insurance for you and your family through the Affordable Care Act. Call now to learn if you qualify. We know the healthcare regulations regarding Medicaid, and we've helped thousands of people find quality, affordable health insurance. Plus, all our research is free to you. So call us. With just one call, we'll shop from hundreds of different insurance companies to find you the right affordable health insurance plan. So if you're worried about losing your Medicaid insurance, call right now. Speak with a licensed agent and find how you may qualify for a new health insurance plan.
800-479-0931. 800-479-0931. 800-479-0931. That's 800-479-0931. Paid for by the Health Insurance Hotline.
Hey, this is Todd Showalter. Join me on Saturday at 5 as I try to put some fun back into this dysfunctional radio station. It's The Right Mind Show with me, Todd Showalter, at 5 on Saturday. And, you know, speaking of dysfunctional, let's get back to Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Welcome back to Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show. Susie Moore here. Tim Jones here. Producer Jerome. And as Jerome alluded, we've got to do it. It's New Year's Eve. You got to have the resolution conversation. Yeah.
Today only.
Today only.
And then we forget about what we talked
Right?
about. Yeah.
Right?
Or we could make a continuing resolution.
Oh, making like a Congress.
Yeah. Continuing
Woo.
resolution. I like that.
Jerome off the top rope. Yeah, so I'm one of those people that tries to set a couple different resolutions and tries to keep them reasonable so that there's a chance that I'll stick with them. And I don't know, I'd give myself maybe a C on how good I am at keeping my resolutions. How about you?
Same thing. I try to make life changes that are modest.
Oh,
that
yeah.
can be achievable, that are not something that are like, well, I'm going to do X, and then you just never get to it. So instead of that, being like, okay, what do I like to do? Well, I like to be outside and I like to try and stay in shape. So I'll try to go on more walks or runs this year. You know, I'll try to, instead of just doing it one day a week, I'll try to do 2 or 3, you know, and just, so not saying I'm going to do it, but like try to change, take something I'm already doing and expand upon it.
Yeah.
You know, one thing I'd like to do is, you know, look, we read lots of stuff. We're reading from the moment we wake up until the moment we go to bed. But it's social media, it's news stories, it's analyses, it's commentaries. I would like to make an effort to read more books in this next year. And so I got one. And so I actually got a head start on this by asking for a book for Christmas. And it was one that popped up. Susie, have you heard of the publication, The New Criterion?
I have.
Yeah. It's kind of a, it's arts and culture through a conservative lens. So, you know, we do daily news stories, life and all that through a conservative lens. This is more of the arts and culture through a conservative lens.
Okay.
Although there are some political-esque leaning stuff from like people like, you know, Victor Davis Hanson and folks like that. Anyway, the New Criterion is fantastic. They talk a lot about some of the great museums of the world. They featured one of my favorite museums on the Upper East Side of New York, speaking of New York, the Frick Museum. They featured, you know, an article on that. And so anyway, I get their emails as well. And in one of their emails right before Christmas was a book that they were featuring, a book review on the great, what many believe was the greatest Roman emperor of all times, Marcus Aurelius. And so it was a book about his life and times and his kind of credo on life. Now, he was kind of at the dawn of Christianity, you know? And so, you know, it's not necessarily a religious themed book, but is a philosophy book.
Okay.
Because many believe that even though he was a Roman Empire, he was a very good person and a good man, a humanitarian. And he really wanted Rome to be of and by and for the people. So basically a Republican, so to speak, thousands of years before such party was created and existed here in the United States of America. I've always been a big fan of Marcus Aurelius. He became most famous in the American consciousness through the movie Gladiator, of course, because he's at the very beginning of that film. And, you know, I'm sure he had his faults and his failures because he was a human being, but he was also known as one of the goodliest Roman emperors because there were some real scoundrels in that mix. Yeah. So I'm going to try to read that book this year.
Just this year. You're giving yourself a pretty
yes, I am,
window.
Susie. A resolution that I might actually achieve.
Okay, but that's the thing. The key is making them reasonable. What about you, Jerome?
Oh, I take the opposite approach. I try to set a goal or something to reach for that I know I cannot possibly achieve within the year, because that way I'm always trying to find new ways of getting as close to that mark as possible. So for this year, I think I'm trying to take investing more seriously, get my financial futures more set up.
Good.
That's a good one.
Ideally, if all things work out, I will be a millionaire. But more realistically, this will at least give me a better idea of where I can cut back on wasteful spending, and I can doge myself.
Oh, that's smart.
And so, yeah, so
like
same
that.
thing in the past, with when I was doing powerlifting, I knew I was not going to be the world champion powerlifter, but by having such a high standard and something to really always have a means of just being out of grasp, I felt like that motivated me more to actually stick with it and see how close I could actually get to it.
You want that carrot dangling in front of you.
Yes.
Kind of keep propelling you forward. I like that.
Best advice I ever got, Jerome, from one of my legal mentors, one of my former law partners, was to do two things. And that was to start putting a little money aside every single month into the markets and to purchase real estate as quickly as possible. And so when I was very young, I bought a condo, and then I was able to flip that and buy a home. And that's kind of where I stopped. I'm not a real estate mogul, but I kept the investing going from a very early age. And I'm telling you, 20 some odd years later, there's some little nest eggs there that
important.
I hope that I have been, Suzanne and I have been using to fund our daughter's college educations.
That's awesome.
And for our retirement. And it started off, Jerome, by just putting aside a tiny little bit of money, but do it every single month and get into that habit.
That's the key. That's the key. In real estate, real estate, that can be a matter of timing too, because I bought at the height of the bubble and then sold 8 years later for the exact same amount. I was not a good real estate investor, but putting money away is a big one. Honestly, I just think it's important to, kind of take a moment, take stock of where you are, think of some concrete ways that you could maybe move towards things that, the direction that you want to move, and make it reasonable. Because if you make it unreasonable, then you punk out about 2 days into the new year and you're like, forget it.
That's a good way to look at it, Susie. Where would you like to be 12 months from now?
Yeah. So just little baby steps towards that. That's important. And that's a good way to start the new year.
License number E2014A.
Hey, it's good to see you.
At Grasser Home Services, we're looking for happy plumbers to join our team. Plumbers who are polite, honest, and do the job right.
And love dogs. They must love dogs.
Plumbers who treat customers' homes with respect, care about the details, and show up on time.
Know a happy plumber who's great with dogs?
Have them call Grasser Home Services.
Green is always Grasser at GrasserHomeservices.com.
If you've turned 65 recently like me, it's important you find a Medicare Advantage plan that gives you the coverage you're looking for. But finding one can be difficult. The best thing I did, and I suggest you do the same, is call a licensed insurance agent and let them walk you through your Medicare Advantage plan options. There are so many benefits you have access to, so make the call now and let the representatives explain everything to you. Our licensed insurance agents can offer you a variety of Medicare Advantage plans. Plus, the call is free, the information is free, and there's no obligation to enroll. We're here to make it easy for you to select a Medicare Advantage plan that may work for your needs. Finding a Medicare Advantage plan can be easy if you do what I did. Make a quick call right now to learn more. Thank you.
800-439-7851. 800-439-7851. 800-439-7851. That's 800-439-7851.
Because truth matters.
Let's speak that truth.
Because understanding matters.
Let's break this down.
With all that's happening.
And it's happening a lot faster.
What matters most is...
the only question that matters here.
Are you informed?
Important issues that are facing this country.
Depend on us.
The latest events.
The information you need.
Here are the facts.
When you need it.
We always have great conversations.
You guys have a great radio station.
1019 and 94.1. News Talk STL. KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Belfast, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at NewsTalkSTL.com.
Breaking news this hour from Town Hall. I'm Rich Thomason. We are watching the new year make its way across the planet, with New Zealand and Australia having already welcomed 2026. Across the U.S., preparations are in place, including in New York City, where the Times Square ball drop may draw more than 1 million revelers. The Trump administration is freezing child care funds to Minnesota amid a fraud scandal.
The move follows years of investigation that began with a $300 million scheme at the nonprofit Feeding Our Future, for which 57 defendants have been convicted. Prosecutors said the organization was at the center of the country's largest COVID-19 related fraud scam, in which defendants exploited a state-run federally funded program intended to provide food for children. Earlier this month, the federal prosecutor alleged half or more of the roughly $18 billion in federal funds that supported 14 programs in Minnesota may have been stolen. I'm Ben Thomas.
The Justice Department is suing Virginia for providing in-state tuition for illegal immigrants.
The lawsuit targets a Virginia law that allows non-citizens to access reduced in-state tuition rates at public universities and colleges if they can establish they reside in the state. The Justice Department argues the measure conflicts with federal immigration law in violation of the U.S. Constitution. This week's lawsuit marks the Trump administration's latest effort to challenge state laws that provide benefits to illegal immigrants. Greg Clugston, Washington.
Communist China's military says it has successfully wrapped up 2 days of live fire military drills in the waters off Taiwan. First-time claims for jobless benefits have dropped for the third straight week, falling to 199,000 last week. Watching Wall Street, the Dow futures are up 4 points. NASDAQ futures 23 points higher. More on these stories at townhall.com.
What if 2026 could be the best year ever for your retirement? It can when you take control of your financial future with physical precious metals. Call Advantage Gold at 800-741-GOLD right now and get your free gold rollover kit valued at $49, yours just for calling. More Americans than ever are discovering the power of rolling over a portion of their IRA or 401k into physical gold and silver. With a simple, tax and penalty-free rollover, you can add stability, security, and strength to your retirement. In times of inflation, uncertainty, or market swings, gold has been a steady, tangible, proven store of value. And in 2026, it could be the key to building the retirement you've always imagined. That's why so many people trust Advantage Gold, the #1 rated gold IRA company in America for 10 years running. Call 800-741-GOLD to get your free gold rollover kit. Call 800-741-GOLD and let 2026 be the year you finally take control. Consult your financial advisor before investing. Call 800-741.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm meteorologist Chance Koch with your first alert forecast. We're tracking partly cloudy skies, highs towards the lower 40s. Things will look to cool down slightly into New Year's Day on Thursday, a high of 38 degrees, partly cloudy. Conditions remain back towards the lower 40s as we head throughout Friday and this upcoming weekend. Temperatures will look to continue to rise, remaining dry throughout much of next week. Highs back towards the lower 50s and upper 40s. Then Thursday and Friday of next week will welcome chances of showers. From the First Alert 4 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Chance Koch.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Stifel, serving investors for over 130 years. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Are you searching for an excellent new vehicle or a great deal on a used one? Then check out Tyler Trineri, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram. Tim Jones here to tell you what loyal Tyler Trineri customers already know. Every new vehicle and select used ones come with an exclusive lifetime warranty. And Tyler Trineri has a service department second to none. I should know. I've been a loyal and happy customer for years. For the best price, selection, and the amazing lifetime warranty, check out Tyler Trineri today, right off Interstate 44 in beautiful Pacific, Missouri. Online at tylertrineri.com, tylertrineri.com.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small remote device called a continuous glucose monitor or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you're testing your blood sugar 4 or more times per day, injecting insulin 3 or more times per day, or using an insulin pump, call the Diabetic Health Hotline today.
800-515-2380. That's 800-515-2380. Paid for by U.S. Med.
Mike Ferguson.
Shut this sucker down.
Susie Moore.
I disagree on his assessment of the situation.
Get up! Get up! Can't you hear the alarm? Get up, St. Louis.
You're not supposed to lie, but you're definitely not supposed to lie when you're under oath.
Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
Get up! Get up! This is your cousin.
Well, good morning, people. Tim Jones in one of the big chairs this morning with Susie Moore and producer Jerome. We're going to be taking you through this 8 o'clock hour. And Jerome, it's a sign of a great show when you can't believe you're already in the last hour of a 3-hour tour.
See, that's what I keep trying to tell people. The hard part's actually getting up in the morning to make it here. But once you're here, it just flies on by.
It does indeed. And boy, have we had plenty to talk about, to review and analyze from the year gone by. Can you believe it? Welcome to New Year's Eve 2025. It is December 31st, 8:05, nearly 8:06 in the AM Central Standard Time here in the Heartland. And wherever you might be, especially if you're in Australia or points, I guess that would be eastward. Yeah, it's so far on the other side of the globe. You're already into the new year. They just celebrated the new year in Sydney, Australia. Looks like South Korea is next as far as New Year's Eve celebrations. We're watching the monitors. And this is one of the fun things to do on New Year's Eve is watch the new year being rung in all across the globe. We got lots to get to this hour. We're going to be speaking to Representative Ben Keithley at 8:20-ish or so. He is one of my favorite legislators in the Missouri House, not only because he is a hardcore member of the Missouri Freedom Caucus and the new vice chair of the Missouri Freedom Caucus. He is succeeding the great Justin Sparks, who is now protecting and serving us once again. Justin Sparks, with a just an amazing law enforcement background, has returned to his roots. Jerome, he's back working for the Homeland Security, Kristi Noem, and the good folks of ICE.
Very well deserved, but I will say it always is a little bit sad when all of our great representatives keep getting picked up by the Trump administration. Can you leave us just a few?
Jerome, that's a great point. People don't realize this. There are a ton of Missourians working in Washington, D.C., literally at the White House and all across the country. The two that always spring immediately to my mind are, of course, Will Scharf, who is the secretary to the president of the United States of America. He's the fellow you often see at President Trump's literal right hand, handing him the executive orders to sign, explaining to him, what these particular, usually there's a stack of them. And Mr. President, now this is the one on, so-and-so that you wanted us to prepare. And then Alex Meyer, who is the director of the very important Office of Intergovernmental Affairs.
Ooh.
It is the office that works with the states. And the Trump administration, like no other president in my lifetime, has decided that federalism needs to be reinstituted in this country. The idea is the federal government should manage very few things. It should manage them well, but the rest of the people's business should be handled by the states, because that was the system that was originally set up. The states were first. The 13 colonies existed before the federal government, and the initial forefathers and foremothers of this country decided that was the system they wanted to retain. So the federal government back in the day, Jerome, was never, ever, ever meant or hoped or believed to have as much power as it unfortunately now has. And that is because a lot has been conceded. A lot of it has been taken by force. And a lot of it has resulted because of nefarious things like the federal income tax instituted by one of the worst, most racist Democratic presidents in human history. And that would be the horrific Woodrow Wilson.
Ooh, there's not enough time on this show to go over all the ways that I hate Woodrow Wilson.
Democrat, racist, and creator of the federal income tax. I mean, those are three big ones right there.
And implemented segregation.
Yes, he did. And see, Democrats like to run away from that. And they say, well, that was, those Democrats were actually Republicans. They would be Republicans. Well, no, they weren't. Because you can't rewrite history that way. They were Democrats because that's what they called themselves. And just because Democrats used to inhabit the South, and now most of the South, although not all of it, is now run largely by Republicans, you can't say that they just switched personas, because they're totally different people in totally different times. But now, but there's one thing that's remained constant, Jerome, and that is the desire of the Democratic Party to control people. They used to do it by slavery, and now they do it by what I call the electoral plantation.
Oh. What is? I haven't heard that before.
They expect certain classes of voters, mainly women and minorities, to vote for them because they give them stuff.
That sounds about right.
It's a new version of slavery. It's basically serfdom,
Yes.
or indentured servitude. But it is an expectation that, well, if I give you free stuff, then you will therefore vote for me and you won't ask any questions. You won't ask if I should be giving you free stuff. You won't ask what the results or ramifications of all this free stuff giving will result in. And you won't ask if it's good or bad that we're giving you this free stuff. Just know that we're giving you this free stuff. And in turn for that, the quid pro quo in legal terms would be that you vote for me and you keep me in power. To Democrats, Jerome, that's all. There's no good public policy effort. There's no goal for that. It is simply power for power's sake. It is simply political power for political power's sake. And that's all that, unfortunately, today's Democratic Party believes in. And that is control, obedience, and oppression.
And I'm really glad that you brought that up, because that's an observation that I've been coming to on my own, actually, is that it seems like all of the Democrats' policies are designed specifically to keep us poorer, to make us more reliant on government, and then to be the government that gives you the hands out that you should be thankful to them for receiving, when in most cases, if they would just stop trying to interject their version of bureaucracy into our daily lives, we would actually probably be a lot more prosperous, be able to make our own decisions and not be so reliant on the government to begin with.
Mm-hmm. And many liberal-leaning people know that socialism and communism are bad, and that all they end up resulting in, and how do we know? We know what I'm going to say. We know is true because it's been proven through the passage of time and millennium of history. And that's that socialism and communism as economic models will always fail because they always have. And there is no better way to do socialism or communism. There is no right way to do it that hasn't been tried before. It's been tried every which way from Sunday by tyrannical, despotic dictators all over the planet, and even by people who started off as being benevolent and kind rulers, and then realized that once you start taking from everyone according to their means and giving back to everyone according to their needs, that is a system that ultimately will fail, because the people that can, because of human nature, and people that can take advantage of those systems will, and they will stop working, or they won't work as hard as the people that are working their butts off and providing for everyone else. There's no incentive in a socialist or communist nation or society or economic system for everyone to pull their own weight.
I mean, it's basic economics, supply and demand. When you have a socialist system, essentially what you're saying is that you need to meet everybody's demand for something, regardless of the supply and regardless of the ability to produce. And it is insane that in the current year, about to be 2026, that we still have people that somehow don't realize that people will find ways of creating new needs for themselves if they keep getting handouts, and they will find ways to lower their means and their ability to produce and contribute if they're given that option.
And to prove my point that there were some smart liberals out there that do recognize this to be true, that aren't avowed socialists or communists, I always think of a famous quote that has been attributed to the lead singer of my favorite rock band of all time, Bono of U2.
Ooh.
And I know Bono is I would call him more of an old school liberal. I wouldn't call him a leftist. I think he's a big hearted, bleeding heart type of liberal kind of guy. And thankfully, U2 has never gotten overly political, but I know they definitely lean to the left because I've heard some of the things they said over the years. But Bono once said something that he probably was concerned about saying at the time, but it's absolutely true. They were asking him about this was a couple decades ago, and it was an interview about U2's international rise to fame, and how this little working class blue collar band, basically a Christian rock band, back in Ireland, right? If you listen to a lot of their songs, they're not like a Christian rock band you would think in the purest sense of the word, but there's a lot of spirituality and theological themes to their music. And there's a lot of that connotation and innuendo, which is why I like that spirituality, and that they're a very hopeful band, And Bono was asked about, how that happened. How was that made so? And Bono said, it's because of capitalism. And he said, despite some of the warts of every economic model, there's no there's no one single economic model that is absolutely perfect from top to bottom, right? Because once again, we're human beings and human beings run these models. And there is no magical omnipotent person, not even AI yet, that is going to do anything in its pure sense of the word. So Bono said that capitalism is responsible for lifting more people out of poverty than any other economic system that mankind has ever created. That was true then when he said it, and it's true now. And that's why, Jerome, that despite the left's anger about 2025, almost 2026 America, that's why people still risk life and limb to be here. Despite the left saying that America is a patriarchal, misogynistic, xenophobic, racist, white Christian nationalist country, everyone of all shapes, size, colors, creeds, and codes still wants to be here because it is still the number one shining light of freedom and liberty on the world stage.
Yeah, I've noticed you don't really see lines of people trying to get on rafts to escape capitalist nations to go to socialist nations. It's usually actually the opposite of that. And I think that is probably the greatest testimony of how fortunate we are to live under such a society that we can benefit from the fruits of our own labor.
That is such a great comment. There are no parades of people lining up to get into North Korea, to get into communist China, to get into the failed island state of Cuba, to get into Hugo Chavez's, now Maduro's Venezuela. You're right, Jerome. People flee those failed economic states, and they still want to be here because we are still yet, under Donald Trump's leadership and, sane Republicans, the leader of the free world because of our economic freedom and our religious liberty. We're going to speak with a great legislative leader on the local scene, Representative Ben Keithley, about what he expects the Missouri legislature to do for the people and not to the people in the next legislative session, which kicks off next week in Jefferson City. Mike Ferguson in the morning, Jones and Arps in the afternoon. We'll be there to cover all of it. Representative Ben Keithley giving us a sneak preview of that next on the Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show, 1019 94.1 News Talk STL.
Mike Ferguson in the morning.
People talk about federal money as if it falls from heaven. We thank heaven for it, but it came out of people's pockets.
On News Talk STL.
You want to take the place of what I trust.
1 in 4 women will have an abortion before the age of 45 in this country. That's the tragedy we must work to stop. Mike Ferguson from The Morning Show here, and that is why Reach Reproductive Health is here, to empower parents to save the lives of innocent children and to see these families come to Christ. And you can be a part of saving and changing lives. So pray and visit outreachforlife.org to learn more, volunteer, and donate. That's outreachforlife.org.
Since 1981, Amis has been serving the St. Louis area mouth-watering pizza, pasta, and steaks made with love and passion. With 2 convenient locations in St. Louis and O'Fallon, we offer dine-in, carry-out, and delivery. From intimate dinners to large catering events, there's something for everyone on our menu. Visit us today or check out our full menu at amispizza.com.
The Vic Porcelli Show.
NPR, guess what? Got the funding, and they're going to close down operations. If they're not going to get federal funding, well, then guess what? There are plenty of radio salespeople out there in the United States who can sell time, big time. You know why they don't sell hire a sales team? Because nobody will buy advertising because they suck so bad.
Oh my God!
You don't see people.
You're so correct. That's it right there.
Vic Porcelli, live and local, weekday mornings at 9 on News Talk STL.
This holiday season, bring the taste of Italy into your home. At DiGregorio's, we've been helping St. Louis families celebrate around the table for over 50 years. From imported wines, olive oils, and cheeses to gourmet pastas, sauces, and specialty holiday favorites like panettone and torrone. Our Italian gift baskets make the season easy and unforgettable. You'll find everything you need to make the holidays special. Experience a little bit of Italy right here in St. Louis. DiGregorio's Italian Market. Visit us at digregoriofoods.com.
Thanks for taking my call.
News, analysis, opinion.
Radio news junkie.
Love every bit about it.
News Talk STL.
Hey guys, Billy Crow here from Jeffco Patriot Radio. Hope you had enough time to freshen up your coffee, because now we're back with Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Is that still, though, stilted towards the upper income brackets? Is it that K-shaped economy some people talk about?
Our team looks at this. Yes, the growth rate difference is higher, but all the third, all 3/3 are growing. And
you
so,
think that'll continue?
Yeah, and that's been continuous. And so that's the question. They grow at different rates, but they're all growing, which all means they're putting more money in the economy than they did this time last year.
Mm-hmm. Not what the very always dour Margaret Brennan of CBS News wanted to hear, not from a Republican strategist, politician, or elected official, but from one of the leading bank CEOs of the country. That was Brian Moynihan, talking about the fact that the Trump economy is benefiting all Americans, and it's because of the policies passed in the One Big Beautiful Bill, the reduction of regulations, and more. How about implementing some of that on the state level? How about a One Big Beautiful Bill coming out of the Missouri legislature this year? Well, I know a guy who may be the architect of several of those pieces of legislation. He joins us now. He is Chesterfield-based Missouri State Representative Ben Keithley, the vice chair of the Missouri Freedom Caucus. Representative, good morning. Happy New Year. Thanks for being with us today.
Good morning. Happy New Year. Always great to be on with you all.
So, Ben, let's talk about the policies that I know that you would like the Missouri legislature to be pursuing this year. You know, Ben, some of the liberal contrarians will often say to me, well, hey, Tim, you're a former speaker and you Republicans have now been in charge in Missouri and been in Missouri now for about 20 years plus or so. So why aren't things great? And I say, well, it's because Missouri Republicans haven't been Republican enough. Would you agree with that, Ben, or not?
Right. And I've said before, we have there's no shortage of Republicans in Jeff City. We don't have a whole lot of economic fiscal conservatives in Jefferson City. There's still, people forget that a lot of this state was voting blue, just 8, 10, 12 years ago. And a lot of the people who get sent to Jeff City from some of those places aren't necessarily caught up to, I think, where Missourians themselves have gotten to. And it leads to it's that combined with 8 years, as working with a blue governor, leaving a lot of the state agencies under control of blue appointments. We still have a challenge on our hands despite our super majorities in both chambers.
Mm-hmm. So, Representative, one of the things that Governor Kehoe has proposed, at least subject matter wise, we haven't seen the details of this yet, but I understand we will within the next couple of weeks or so, would be an effort to continue to ratchet down and eventually eliminate Missouri's income tax. Ben, why should we do that? And why would that be good for Missouri taxpayers, families, farmers, and small business owners?
Well, I've called the income tax probably one of the most immoral taxes we have. There's some ways that we tax people that are just some of the most inefficient. Personal property tax is another big one. But income tax, it's not just the money they take. It's probably the single biggest invasion of privacy that we have in our state and our federal government level too. Think about it, it's a system where we take the dollars before they ever even hit your bank account. It's not like we send you a bill so you know what you're paying. We just take it from people. Add on the fact that we then make people fill out disclosures where they explain, hey, we need to know where every dollar you spent, every dollar you earned, every dollar you invested. We need to know where all of it went. And the government needs to check and make sure you're not trying to cheat. And see if we can take a little more from you. And meanwhile, the government has access to all your finances, has a blank check to audit whatever they want of yours through the income tax system. People don't think about that ramification of the income tax system. But in addition to being this horrific externality on the markets, leading to inefficiencies that block our economy from growing, it also is a huge invasion of privacy.
Representative Keithley, one of the criticisms that is often launched at cutting income taxes or cutting any taxes, mainly by the progressive left and, big government rhino Republicans, is how are we going to pay for this? How are we going to pay for, letting people keep more money in their own pockets? What is your response to the how are we going to pay for this arguments that are always launched at these efforts?
Well, I'll tell them, just look at Missouri. The proof is in the pudding. What have we done the last several years consistently after Andrew Koenig forced some negotiations to get some income tax with the conservative caucus in the Senate just 3-4 years ago. We have consistently been small, just little by little lowering that income tax rate, and it hasn't led to a revenue problem. In fact, quite the opposite. Every year in which Missouri has cut its income tax under the trigger system, we have realized more growth in the next year. The fact is that when states cut their income taxes, companies across the country take notice and they move and they create jobs in Missouri, and it creates more economic activity. We grow the base. We make Missourians more prosperous, more wealthy, and it actually leads to us realizing those gains all over again. This is not it's not a zero-sum game with taxes. You grow the economy. You do things that make Missouri more free. People want to be here. The economy grows, and there's no revenue shortfall like some people claim.
Such a great point. As we've cut taxes, we have placed more revenues into the state coffers because we've kept more dollars in the private sector. And Ben, isn't this true with all of our surrounding neighbors, right? Because Missouri doesn't have to exist here in a vacuum, right, Ben? We can look at with the exception of maybe the People's Republic of Illinois, our other 7 neighbors are competing against us every day, aren't they, Ben? And their governors have been aggressively cutting their income taxes and other taxes. One of our neighboring states, Tennessee, has never had an income tax. And so if for no other reason than to keep up with the economic competitive desires of our neighboring states, Missouri can't get left behind in this race to eliminate the income tax, can we? We can't afford it.
Right. And you're right. We don't exist in a vacuum. You have a lot of our neighboring states and a lot of other states we compete with beyond just the neighboring ones. States like Florida, Mississippi, Texas, all either don't have an income tax or, like Mississippi, are making big terms to our big strides in cutting their income tax and eliminating it completely. As other states move closer to zero and they feel the pressure to go to zero, Missouri has to too. We don't want to be late to the game. We don't want to be the last to do it when all the other companies, as they've reorganized around America, everyone's fled the liberal nightmares of California, New York, and Illinois, and they resettle. We don't want them leaving Missouri out because we were the last to do it. We want to be a leader on this. We want to be first. We want to get to zero before anyone else does because we're going to grow faster.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, such a great point. All you got to do is look at the annual U-Haul index, which I think comes out in the next few days or so, showing where people are moving around the country. They're leaving the big failed blue states. They're moving to the red state, the Renaissance red states all across the country. And that income migratory index that U-Haul puts out is proof positive of that. Folks, we're speaking to Representative Ben Keithley. He represents predominantly the area of Chesterfield, just to our west here from our beautiful studios in Maryland Heights. Representative, I know you have other priorities as well. One of those is a bill that I noticed that you have pre-filed that was discussed at great length last year, which is the REINS Act. I believe that's an acronym, REINS, I believe, the REINS Act. Ben, tell us about the REINS Act and why it has become such a big priority for you and why you believe it should be a priority for the legislature in 2026.
Well, again, it's about economic freedom. It's about reducing the size of government. We need to make government small again. And I touched upon it before, how we still are dealing with our economy, our businesses, our families are still dealing with an outgrowth of a past blue Missouri that ballooned these state agencies with rules and regulations. That continues to happen. And the best way we need to do that is we need to make sure that government is accountable to the people through its elected officials. Right now, elected officials are making very few of the laws. Most of the laws are being done by unelected bureaucrats throughout our state agencies. We need better accountability, better oversight, and that's what the REINS Act does. It makes sure legislators are reviewing these and suspending harmful rules in our economy, harmful rules to Missouri families and businesses.
We'll be following that legislation as well. Ben, we got about a minute or so left before we let you go. What are the other priorities of yours that you would like to see the leadership in the House and the Senate advance? And what other priorities in general do you think will be pursued by Missouri's General Assembly, which will go back into session next Wednesday?
Well, I'd like to see us continue, doing the big points of the Missouri Freedom Caucus are obviously making Missouri secure again, making Missouri free again, making Missouri healthy again, making Missouri safe again, and making Missouri prosperous again. all of these things, income taxes related to this, REINS Act, but also there are other things we can do to make Missouri secure. I have a bill with Senator Nick Shore that we've been working on with the Treasurer's Office to make sure our financial institutions aren't allowing Missouri to be a safe haven for illegal immigration activity. Some other things that will allow some economic financial freedom through cryptocurrency investments. And I think these are all things that fit in well as we try to shrink the size of government in Missouri and make sure that Missouri can be a better place for families and a better place for businesses as we move forward and try to grow our economy.
Fantastic. Ben, always great speaking with you. Thanks so much for your time this morning. I want to wish you and your wonderful family a very happy new year. And we're definitely going to be looking forward to speaking with you and working with you throughout 2026.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Tim. You guys have a happy new year.
You too as well. That's Representative Ben Keithley, represents the region of Chesterfield in the Missouri State House. He's at Ben Keith, Keath, at Ben Keith on Twitter X. And as we have mentioned, he is the vice chairman of the Missouri Freedom Caucus with our chair, our favorite Senator Nick Schroer. All right, 8:31 in the Heartland here on the Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show. Wow, cannot believe it, Jerome. We got barely 30 minutes left. We're going to need to get some more maybe some predictions now, maybe in this last half hour looking forward. I've got a list of the most anticipated movies of 2026 and some expert predictions of things that may come to pass. Talk about that next on the Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show. Tim Jones in the big chair here at 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL.
Mike Ferguson in the morning
In the Ice Age, how much taxes did people pay?
on News Talk STL. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm meteorologist Chance Koch with your first alert forecast. We're tracking partly cloudy skies, highs towards the lower 40s. Things will look to cool down slightly into New Year's Day on Thursday, a high of 38 degrees, partly cloudy. Conditions remain back towards the lower 40s as we head throughout Friday and this upcoming weekend. Temperatures will look to continue to rise, remaining dry throughout much of next week. Highs back towards the lower 50s and upper 40s. Then Thursday and Friday of next week will welcome chances of showers. From the First Alert 4 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Chance Koch.
Fox News commentary with Tommy Lahren. Next.
Hey, I'm Mike Slater. My dad passed away at the age of 63. It's out of nowhere. Had a stroke. Super hard, obviously, for the whole family, but my dad had life insurance. This is why I have life insurance for my family, for my wife and 4 kids. And the best place to get life insurance is ethos.com because you can do it in 10 minutes. And there's no medical exam and no blood test, just a few health questions. Get life insurance in 10 minutes so your family is protected. Ethos, ETHOS, ethos.com/Mike.
Tommy Lahren reacts to a report by an independent journalist alleging widespread fraud in Minnesota.
But now that the American public is invested in this, now that they've watched that YouTube video from Nick Shirley and the X video 100 million times, right? Now people are invested and they want to see heads roll and they want to see accountability. And I love all of our government officials on the right tweeting about this and congratulating Nick Shirley for his journalism, but that's not enough. And a strongly worded letter in this situation is not enough either. If that quality luring center is still operational in 1 month, I think it's safe to say that that's going to be a giant frustration and a giant missed opportunity for those in the DOJ and oversight and other places where this should be definitely sussed out and brought to a close.
For more commentary like this, go to foxnewspodcast.com.
1949, the last time a Republican held the top post in St. Louis City. A gallon of milk was 84 cents and streetcars ran down Grand Avenue. Unfortunately, St. Louis City streets are no longer the epicenter of family and business life. In the 80 years of Democrat control, our city has been on a steady decline.
Hello, Kirk Ilsinger, chairman of the Republican Party for the city of St. Louis, and we believe it is our duty to provide a different path forward. I invite you to our meetings the first Thursday of every month. Learn more at stl-gop.com.
Paid for by St. Louis City Republican PAC. Curtis Farber, Treasurer.
SR1 Sundays.
Hi, this is Elizabeth Kaiser. Be sure and check out my show, Straight Lines, this and every Sunday at 8 p.m., right after Stand and Fight, part of SR1 Sundays. Let's meet right here and let's peel back some layers of this crazy world, and you might be surprised at what we find. Straight Lines with Elizabeth Kaiser on SR1 Sundays at 8 p.m., right here on 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL.
Straight Lines with Elizabeth Kaiser. Kaiser on News Talk STL.
Now you can fly anywhere in the world and pay discount prices on your airline tickets. Book a flight today to London, Paris, Madrid, or anywhere else you want to go and pay a lot less guaranteed. Call the International Travel Department right now at Low Cost Airlines.
800-515-2397. 800-515-2397. That's 800-515-2397.
Conservative talk for St. Louis.
It's your patriotic rights and duty.
The government needs to step up and do its job.
This is News Talk STL.
It's well-balanced conversation.
News, analysis, opinion.
Hey everyone, this is State Senator Nick Schroer. I am the host of Stand and Fight every Sunday night. Right now, let's hear more of Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show here on News Talk STL.
How are voters feeling about Democrats right now?
Yeah, I mean, Democrats in the minds of the American public are lower than the Dead Sea. What are we talking about here? Well, let's take a look. The net approval rating for Democrats in Congress, you said it, Kate Baldwin, the lowest ever. Look at this. Overall, they are 55 points underwater. Their approval rating is south of 20%. It's even worse when you look at independents. Look at this. Negative 61 points. That means that their approval rating is 61 points lower than their disapproval rating. Quinnipiac has been polling this question for the better part of the 21st century. They have never found Democrats, at least those in Congress, in worse shape than they are right now.
The always excited Harry Enton from CNN. Gotta love that guy, Jerome. He seems to really embrace and enjoy everything he does. That's a happy fellow right there.
Oh, yeah. No, that you can't match that energy. That's a pure, authentic joy at what he does.
And that's a CNN commentator.
Wow.
So for all you wacky lunatic liberals out there, CNN is declaring that your party, the Democratic Party, is an abject failure. Just ask Americans and put aside the Republicans. Focus on what Harry said there about what independents, these are the swing voters, right? As much as we love to loathe them because they can't make up their minds, the independents, Jerome, decide most major national elections. These are generally people who are, and this is a huge general broad brush, they're generally fiscally conservative and generally more socially liberal, right? Generally, that's kind of the general point. Now, you're going to find independents of all shapes, sizes, colors, creeds, and codes. But if you look at the massive metric of independence, that's kind of where they are. They get turned off by, bombastic personalities like Donald Trump or like lunatics like Eric Swalwell, on the other side of the coin. They don't like the big personality stuff. I like the big personality stuff. It makes life more interesting. It's the spice of life. But that's the independents. Independents now view Democrats in a negative 61 point deficit. So all you Democrats out there who sit and criticize shows like ours or can't stand Newsmax or Fox News or the Republican Party or Donald Trump, maybe you need to first of all do a little self-awareness test and look at yourself in the mirror and ask yourself, why do most Americans think that our party is an abject failure?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the people that are elected to their side of the Congress, it's a lot of just really loony, lack of common sense, just out of touch with reality individuals. So it seems like not only did they elect them, but now they're so dissatisfied with the people that they elected. Should we be too optimistic that maybe this is a sign that they're going to be shifting more towards the right?
The current Democratic Party, in their quest to attack the patriarchy and the colonialism and the racism and the xenophobia, have gone so far, Jerome, that they've embraced outlandish concepts like having open borders, like looking the other way, as 20 million people who may or may not be criminals, who may or may not be terrorists, were allowed to flood in this country. Looking the other way while disorder and chaos and lawlessness broke out, mainly in urban, Democrat-ruined America. Looking the other way while America's stature on the world stage was diminished because Joe Biden was an empty husk of a human being. Wars breaking out everywhere. It's not an accident that Ukraine was invaded under Barack Obama, not under Donald Trump 1.0, and then again under Joe Biden. That's not an accident or a mistake either. Donald Trump was predicted by liberal lunatics and Democrats everywhere that he would destroy the economy. Well, as I just pointed out earlier, the S&P 500 is up 16% this year. Wow. We are knocking on the door of 50,000 for the Dow. We're at like 49,900, okay? I predict, here's my prediction for 2026, the Dow Jones Industrial Average is going to hit 50,000 points. And then what are the nattering nabobs of negativity going to say about that? Trump was supposed to get us into World War III. He's ended at least 8 major conflicts around the globe, and he's working on Russia, Ukraine every single day. And Trump was going to, what else was he going to do? Oh, he was going to set women and minorities back decades. Well, once again, the forgotten men and women in this country are seeing their wages rise like they haven't seen in the last 2 decades.
Yeah, wasn't President Trump supposed to be a dictator on day one, and that was going to be the end of civilization as we knew it?
Mm-hmm.
And somehow we have not seen the dictator part of it, and we have not seen the end of civilization. Funny how that works.
The opposition leader of Venezuela, the lady who won the Nobel Peace Prize. So first of all, you have a woman from Venezuela saying that Donald Trump deserves the Nobel Peace Prize. Not this wasn't a Republican commentator saying this. This was the lady who's literally fighting Maduro and has a bounty on her head every single day, fighting for freedom and liberty around the globe. So none of those things happened. And unlike what Barack Obama said back during his tenure, where we would have to simply, quote, get used to anemic 1.5% GDP growth, Donald Trump's economy absolutely blew the doors off last week with the announcement that we are over 4.3% of GDP growth for the third quarter, many predicting that we could hit 5% GDP growth next year. So if all that happens and all that occurs, there's going to be massive wind in Republican sales. And, Jerome, you don't have to take my word for it or Mike's word or Susie's or your word for it. How about we look at an actual sitting U.S. Democratic senator for what he thinks are the problems with his party, once again requiring all you liberals to maybe look in the mirror, because this is coming directly from the horse's mouth of U.S. Senator John Fetterman.
Never going to change my party, but clearly we've lost the argument, and right now I think it's entirely appropriate to really be honest and just figure out why exactly have we effectively lost 2 out of the last 3 cycles, and a lot of the things we've really kind of really lost our connection with American voters in ways. And I think we can't just be, well, Trump is always wrong, or that we're going to set the country on fire or whatever. That's just not true either, of course. But, when I represent a state like Pennsylvania, that keeps you honest. And you always can't forget that a lot of Americans happen to disagree with you. That does not mean that they are fascists or now they want to shred the Constitution.
Yeah, John Fetterman there, U.S. Senator John Fetterman, Democrat from one of the purplest states in the country. You talk about independent swing voters. That's who pretty much govern. That's who decide who's going to govern the Keystone State. And it's a critical state for any presidential candidate to win. So John Fetterman, he said a lot in that 47 seconds, didn't he?
Oh, yeah.
He basically said that today's Democratic Party has lost the argument because they've lost their way. Mm-hmm. Now, what is he talking about? Well, further on in that interview and in other interviews, he's given examples. He said today's Democratic Party should not be an anti-Semitic, anti-Israel party. That's one thing he has been lock, stock, and barrel on. Another thing he said, Jerome, is the Democratic Party can no longer be the party of open borders. He's been very steadfast on saying we can't have a wide open nation to whoever wants to wander in here and do whatever they want to our country.
Well, that's the fascinating thing about John Fetterman, in my opinion. I was not super impressed with him when he first started making the rounds. In the
all used to make fun of him. How stupid were we and wrong about that?
But he's proven to be actually having a lot of common sense and be the voice of reason on that side. And moderates and even some of the Democrats I know, they enjoy the country's values that we have. They enjoy the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, and they don't want to see our country become the countries of the people that are leaving their country to come here.
Yeah, I would ask modern day Democrats, don't you understand how far your party has fallen? And you don't have to take my word for it. You can look at what independent voters are saying. We just played Harry Enton, the political analyst for CNN, Harry Enton, saying that amongst independent voters, the Democratic Party is down 61% over the last year. And American voters as a whole, Republicans, independents, and Democrats, congressional Democratic approval is at a historic low. It's at the lowest point since they started doing polling on that metric. So you liberals, and look, the Republican Party has its problems, and I could do another whole hour on some of the stupidity of the Republican Party. Basically, they're not Republican enough. That's how I would sum it all up.
Yes.
Republicans these days do not have the cojones to be Republican enough, whether you want to look at what Reagan professed or what Trump has done over the last couple of his terms. They haven't cut enough taxes. They haven't reduced enough regulations. They haven't proposed and defended enough economic freedom, liberty, and religious liberty. So Republicans' problem is they haven't been constitutionally Republican enough. Democrats' problem is they have basically cast aside all of their traditional values they used to hold as the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party of old used to be very pro-American. They used to be very much defenders of the U.S. military and military strength. They used to be very much in favor of having a secure, protected border. Just look at the speeches from a few years ago from Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, Bill Clinton, and yes, even Barack Obama, talking about the necessity of having a secure border and not letting illegal immigrants come in here willy-nilly without any sort of vetting process whatsoever. And they used to not be as insane on economic policy. Yes, they always used to want to spend more money. They wanted more government programs. They felt that government centralized planning was the best decision maker, but never to the tune of putting America into bankruptcy to the tunes of trillions of dollars. They've literally lost their way. And this is not me saying this. This is me funneling to you the information that has come from CNN and U.S. Senator John Fetterman, a Democrat himself. So if you don't want to take any guidance from one of your U.S. senators or from your communications department, otherwise known as CNN, then you know what? I'm not going to help you out anymore in 2026. God bless you and good riddance to you ever being a major national party ever again. All right, one final segment left on the Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show. I have got the 38, we won't get through all of them, but I've got some of the most anticipated movies that we expect to see in 2026 and prediction bingo. Some of the things that could come to pass as predicted by the experts in 2026. Those two items up next on the Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show. 1019 94.1 News Talk STL.
Mike Ferguson in the morning.
What was once considered radical is now mainstream.
On News Talk STL.
Hey, Colombo here for Intervine, a great local company that has customers all across the country due to the quality of their products. Intervine has the best flashlights, lanterns, headlamps, and even batteries, including the new Monster 2000 Lumen waterproof lantern and the Sentinel 2000 self-defense flashlight. Our home and vehicles are full of great Intervine products, and right now you can shop their website and get 25% off your entire purchase just by using my name, Tony, as your promo code. That's promo code Tony at Intervine.com.
Hi, it's Ken Williams, and my favorite Capriati sandwich is the Capistrami. You've got hot pastrami, melty Swiss cheese, crunchy coleslaw, and zesty Russian dressing. What else do you need? I love Capriati's, and you will too.
On Manchester at McKnight in Rock Hill.
JC's Wayback Machine.
I would not recommend contracting this flu that has been going around. I'm on my 5th day, sick as a dog. But by Saturday, I'll feel all better, right? And we'll have plenty of great tunes for you from the 90s, 80s, and 70s, and a healthy dose of pop culture. All brought to you by the Weber Automotive Group.
It's JC's Wayback Machine. Every Saturday night, 6 to 9. On News Talk STL.
Why leave your company's story to chance? In today's digital world, video content isn't just an option. It's essential for your success. At Blue Ocean Media Group, we've spent decades crafting compelling visual stories for businesses just like yours. From concept to completion, our award-winning team transforms your vision into powerful video content that connects with your audience and drives results. Don't trust your brand to amateurs. Partner with Blue Ocean Media Group. Visit blueoceanmediagroup.com today, and let's bring your story to life.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
On behalf of Chris Arps and producer Joey V, Tim Jones here to wish you and yours a very safe, happy, and healthy new year.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps. Weekdays at 4 on News Talk STL.
The perfect body, the perfect face. It's like God's best work, all in one place. For the haters ain't perfection, can't you say? It's a burden being wonderful like me.
Hey, Chris Arps from the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. Make sure that you're listening to our show this afternoon from 4 to 6. Now back to the Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show.
Taking aim at the Biden-Harris economic record, and that's what we do too right now. January 2021, still reeling from COVID. That's when they were sworn into office. In June of 2022, inflation peaked at a high of 9.1%, which was the highest since November of 1981. Gas prices now, June and July of 2022, that same year, I've got $5.16 national average to be the peak in July of that month. In October 2023, that's when real estate started to feel it. Mortgage rates hit almost 8% in that month.
A little walk down memory lane there. Thank goodness those are the bygone days of the failed Biden-Harris presidency. Historic inflation, record gas prices, peak mortgage rates, all of that very much in our rearview mirror as we see inflation under the last 11 months of Donald Trump at historic lows. Yes, inflation itself is still around 2.7%, lower than the experts thought it would be at this time. But if you just look at the Trump months of January 20th through today, inflation is actually below 2%. So it's going in the right direction. Record low gas prices we haven't seen in like 4 or 5 years, except in California, where they're just Looney Tunes out there. They tax everything. And Jerome, for the first time, I think in 20 years, wages are increasing faster than the price of new homes. That's good for home buyers into 2026 and all of the folks that we love that help support our radio station in the real estate world. So,
oh, that's good news for my generation for sure.
Indeed, because that's been one of the problems. People are wondering if your generation will be able to still pursue the American dream. Well, if we pursue the proper policies, you will.
Yeah, I saw a actual study recently that among those polled that were Gen Z, 63% have already given up on the idea of ever being able to afford a home. And that's concerning if you think about the large scale effects of that.
Yep. And that's not what we want. We want to have an upwardly mobile next generation, every single generation that comes along. All right, Jerome, a lot of people make predictions this time of year, and I have a little synopsis of predictions from it's from a publication. I guess it's a kind of a non-political publication. I do read non-political stuff because I want to know what's going on in the world writ large. This is from something called the 1440 Digest. They assembled and analyzed predictions from over 2,000 experts. And I'll just give you a sampling of some of the things, Jerome, they think may come to pass in 2026. Widespread investment in agenetic AI. I'm not exactly sure what that is, but it sounds like maybe getting closer to curing some of these genetic diseases that are passed on. So maybe we learn about more of genes in the human body, and then we can figure out how to solve some of these ongoing, cancer and diabetes and things like that sort.
That would be fantastic. But whenever I hear genetic and AI to get, the sci-fi in me starts to come out. So
me too.
Hopefully what you're describing is closer to what they meant by that.
Indeed. How about the stock markets? Equities are predicted to still be powered by AI and big tech. Most likely so. I mean, usually the latest inventions, the latest industrial revolution of the day is what powers the market, kind of day to day. Let's see here. Data centers, hot topic. Data center build out becomes a macro theme. I can definitely see that happening. Oh, here's a good here's a good prediction. Double digit gains once again for the S&P 500. Ooh. This year we've seen gains at 16%. So they're predicting double digit gains next year as well. A lot of kind of tech and monetary stuff here. Defense spending, good for the U.S., marches upwards. Yep. When you want to see, if you're not safe and secure, nothing else really matters.
Well, I would agree, but the Pentagon keeps failing their audits.
Yeah,
So
we need
I'm
to
getting
be
concerned about
building.
that.
We need to be building the right stuff in the military. Yes, not waste. We shouldn't waste money in the Pentagon any more than we should waste money in any other form of government. India predicted as the standout amongst the first world nations as a growth engine. So India is expected to see excessive growth in 2026
In terms of population or economy as a trade partner? Okay.
economic growth. And finally, stable coins, Bitcoin, Ethereum, go quietly mainstream. They become part of just what we do. I can see that happening as well.
I'm not too sure about that one, though. I mean, I know that there are places where you can use cryptocurrencies for grocery purchases, and people, I think, want it to be, but that defeats the purpose of what Bitcoin was actually supposed to be. And there are so many of these random coins out there that just seem to be investments for the sake of having them, rather than actually have any sort of utility when it comes to trading for goods and services.
Indeed. 38 movies that are the most anticipated movies of 2026. I don't have time to go through all of them, so I'm going to hit the big ones that I recognize. I'm sure my producer, Joey V, knows about all of these and every single thing about them, but I'm going to hit on the big headline ones that have struck me. We got another 28 movie coming out 28 years later, The Bone Temple. So the dystopian zombie flick adds another element to its empire. There is a remake, which Hollywood loves to do, of Wuthering Heights, the famous Emily Bronte classic, literary classic. Wuthering Heights has been done a million times. Jerome, this one is going to feature Catherine Earnshaw. I'm sorry, Margot Robbie as the 18-year-old Catherine Earnshaw, and Jacob L. Rhodey playing the Gothic Byronic hero Heathcliff. So that's that. There is going to be a Scream 7 movie, as if the first 6 weren't enough. There is going to be a movie about Michael Jackson, simply called Michael. A Super Mario movie is coming out as well. And The Devil Wears Prada Part 2, 20 years later.
Wow.
My wife and daughter will be in line for that one. All right. The one and only Ken Williams up next for the Vic Porcelli Show. Happy New Year.
If you're waking up tired, stiff, or feeling like your mattress turned against you, it's time for an upgrade. And right now, Snooze Mattress and Wellness in Chesterfield has the biggest deals of the season. Save up to